Here we go.
So the finally here. Performance for you. If you know the words, you can join in too. Put your hands together if you wanna clap as we take you through this monkey rap. He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. He's finally back to kick some tail. His coconut gun can fire in spurts. If he shoots ya, it's gonna hurt. He's bigger, faster, and stronger too. He's the first member of the DK crew. DK, Donkey Kong. DK, Kong's got style, so listen up, dude. She can shrink inside to suit her mood. She's quick and nimble when she needs to be. She can go through the air and climb up trees. If you choose her, you'll not choose wrong. With a skip and a hop, she's one cool car. He has no style, he has no grace. This car has a funny face. He can handstand when he needs to and stretch his arms out just for you. Inflate himself just like a balloon. This crazy car just digs his tune. DK, Donkey Kong. DK, Donkey Kong is here. He's back again and about time too. And this time he's in the mood. He can fly real high with his tip back on, with his pistols out. He's one tough call. He'll make you smile when places do. But gremlins beware, 'cause he's out. Donkey Kong. Finally, he's here for you. It's the last member of the DK crew. This Kong's so strong, it isn't funny. Can make a gremlin cry out for money. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Make crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this Kong, one hell of a guy. Come on, Cranky, take it to the fridge.
Here we go.
So the finally here. Performance for you. If you know the words, you can join in too. Put your hands together if you wanna clap as we take you through this monkey rap. DK, Donkey Kong. He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. He's finally back to kick some tail. His coconut gun can fire in spurts. If he shoots ya, it's gonna hurt. He's bigger, faster, and stronger too. He's the first member of the DK crew. DK, Donkey Kong. DK, Donkey Kong is here. Kong's got style, so listen up, dude. She can shrink inside to suit her mood. She's quick and nimble when she needs to be. She can go through the air and climb up trees. If you choose her, you'll not choose wrong. With a skip and a hop, she's one cool car. He has no style, he has no grace. This car has a funny face. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Make crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this car, one hell of a guy. Come on, Cranky, take it to the fridge. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut.
Welcome, Ultraers and Switchy sisters alike, to episode 13 of the weekly episodic gaming-adjacent livestream podcast show. This is Switch to Ultra, live from another Super Tuesday. It's been quite a tumultuous week, but more important than any real-world news, we have been gifted a 17-minute Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct, and we have two people best suited for the analysis job. Welcome to the Switch to Ultra family. I'm your co-parent, BH Ultra.
And I am your co-parent, Switchy.
And just in case you might hear anything behind me, any whirring, any whizzing, any buzzing, any bizzing, normally I turn off the entirety of the air conditioning in the house because my computer is right across from where the air conditioner is outside. However, I elected to not turn off my air conditioning today because in Maryland, on the East Coast right now, it is 98 degrees today. So it's probably not recommended to turn off my air conditioning, lest this become a very, very uncomfortable podcast. Even more so than last week, if you could believe it. Switchy, how was your weekend?
It's good.
And also your Monday. Your weekend and also your Monday.
That's my Monday was the flying back day, so that's not always as fun. But, it's, I'm glad to be home. Glad to be, back in the saddle.
Yeah, you got you enlisted really quick, right? Like you immediately went overseas.
Yeah, I went I launched some drones to nuclear facilities in Iran.
Right. No, I mean they always said that they want to recruit gamers, right? That's such a funny phenomenon to me. I guess it makes sense that like for a while, I don't know if they still do that, like the US Army had like a spot on Twitch, and that's the audience they were going for, was trying to like recruit gamers, because technically it is mostly just behind a control panel. We're obviously not going to get too much into it because that's not really what the show is, but this happens every now and then, and I don't want to like equate it to nothing because I'm not one to say that nothing ever happens, because this is something happening, but I think people worried about the draft or whatever are kind of they're deluding themselves, and it's also sort of a lack of empathy to be like, oh man, I don't want to die for this. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to. Other people will that are currently getting bombed. Like the fear you're feeling right now of death, you should probably focus that elsewhere, because it's not happening to you. It's not gonna happen to you. I see Doomer posts on my Twitter and my TikTok feed is like, these are the most dangerous places to be in case of like nuclear fallout or nuclear annihilation, and that and the draft are just things that are just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think I saw some discourse about it, and a big point was maybe I think someone saying that I know the American empire is a large part of why this is all shit, and why there's people threatening to, or there's a risk of war, risk of outright conflict,
a risk of rain,
but that doesn't that doesn't make the fear certain Americans have right now not legitimate, and I guess that's true, but I think that it's important to recognize that even right now, where there's a where the United States, Israel, Iran, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of, I'd say, we have different priorities. They wanna continue testing nuclear devices, and we don't want them to, or at least the American State Department doesn't want them to. But it's very important to realize that, at least historically, and by historically I mean the past 40, 50 years at the minimum, when the United States is in conflict with one of these countries, it's not American civilians who die in large numbers.
No, yeah.
It is people. It is people in the Middle Eastern countries specifically. I mean, it's Libya, Egypt. Egypt was a little bit further back.
That's what they call it, proxy war, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Even beyond that, like even if like the American militia is like is set down there, it is such an aggressive system that preys on the people that need help the most. There's never going to be a draft when there are so many like pieces of that in place where it's like, hey, if you're really broke and have no prospects outside of high school, like, oh, just enlist in the army. I know a ton of people like that who I grew up with who just like didn't have anything else going on and needed to survive and make money, and they never cared about the army. They're just like, yeah, I'll just enlist, I'll just do the training or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of people I know who did that, who essentially just thought, you know what, maybe there are easier ways to do this, but frankly, it's a simple calculation that enlisting in the United States military and serving for a few years, being someone who previously served for the U.S. military, there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of, preferential treatment you get. Whether that's a good, well, I'm not exactly pro-U.S. military, but
no.
that is a reason a lot of people do it.
Right. I'm just saying they're never going to be desperate for people to enlist when there are people who are desperate,
Yeah. I mean, I guess the key point I'd make is that the tragedies that we're teetering on the edge of, are mostly not going to be the death of Americans. And that's not to discount, Iraq War, there were definitely Americans who died, but by orders of magnitude, usually it was people in Iraq who passed away.
Yeah.
Many of whom were civilians.
Also, there's like an argument of whether or not we should have even been in Iraq anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, that's a whole other thing. I mean, frankly, we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But I think I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I'm a lot more worried about people in Tehran, people in Iran right now, than I am for Americans who might get drafted by a draft that's not going to happen. And frankly, there's no war that's going to happen on U.S. soil, at least not with Iran.
We're going to be fighting on the front line of Texas.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, the last time anything like that has really happened that I can think of, maybe there's been like smaller things, but like a full-scale battle is probably Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 9/11 was like an individual set of attacks, but it wasn't, extensive combat. But I mean, that's splitting hairs. So maybe I'm just talking out of my ass there. But yeah, I don't think your average Joe in the United States is going to be put in personal danger because of what's going on in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more concerned for people in Iran itself, because that's where the missiles are going. I mean, they've shot some missiles back to Israel as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Just like, I think anxiety about it is fine, because it is like war just in general. It's a scary thought. But I do fear a subsect of people who are like, oh shit, this stuff we're doing to other people, now it's going to happen to us. And they do like introspection about it. It's like, okay, are you just now realizing that this is a fucked up thing to do to human people?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's why, there's a lot of people giving Americans talking about how worried they are the side eye, because I guess it's just it can come off as a little bit tone deaf, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Because and I guess once again, it's totally reasonable to not be happy about this, to be a little bit worried, but I think it's just important to recognize that the people most in danger are not Americans. And that's just an important thing to kind of recognize and think about, and keep in consideration when you think about United States foreign policy and the threat or lack thereof to the United States as a country.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And speaking of foreign policy, well, obviously I have the movie I saw over the weekend, but like the previous months when I was watching movies, wanted to watch all of the Karate Kid films and then see the new one. Wanted to watch all of the Final Destination films and see the new one. Same goes with Mission Impossible. And I think I had the most fun with Mission Impossible. And Final Destination was just like, none of them are like particularly great. It's all just kind of like dumb fun. But then I got to the point where I was just watching Karate Kid films, and they just got progressively worse. And I tried doing the same thing with the Jurassic Park movies. And I don't know if you know this, but like the first Jurassic Park movie is really the only good one. So I was signing up for what was basically just 5 more mediocre to bad movies, and I just didn't want to do that. There's 3 Jurassic Parks and then 3 Jurassic Worlds.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't seen Jurassic World the first in a very long time, but like it doesn't stand out as anything. Like, say what you will about The Force Awakens, but at least that has like characters I like and identify with, even though it is very derivative. I feel like Jurassic World is what people accuse The Force Awakens of being, which is just like a retread. And I like Chris Pratt at performances more than most do, but he just nothing. I don't remember anything from that movie, and there's other movies from 2015 that I do remember more. But
yeah,
I remember being young and hearing like, oh man, all they make are remakes and reboots nowadays, and you don't really notice what's happening. And also because, you know, a pandemic happened where just you couldn't go to the theaters for a while, and it's still taken a while for movies to be fully back. Like, I feel like they haven't fully recovered from COVID even to this day. Barbenheimer was really big, but that's not very common. But
yeah, absolutely.
The point I was getting at was when I was referring to that idea. I feel like I've been hearing since I was a kid, and I'm like still hearing to this day. And I never really noticed how long it's been that we have been in this era of like, oh man, they only make reboots and sequels and remakes for like a decade now. And I don't think that's entirely true. I do think it's the fault of like losing DVDs and other residuals that studios are less likely to take chances on movies. Even though Sinners was, I don't know if it's the highest grossing thing this year, but it's easily like rising. I mean, that's why it's at the very top of my list to be the highest grossing film, domestic film in a long while to not be based on a different property. But there's...
So is Sinners that much? I don't want to say fluke, but is it that much of a, I guess,
the last
in the rough isn't the term either, but just in terms of a non, you know, franchise movie doing well.
Yeah, the last movie to make that much that wasn't based on anything. I'm getting them mixed up. It was either Gravity or Interstellar. It was some space thing.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's insane, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, because you were talking about Sinners, and it sounds like a great film. I'm actually planning to watch it, but I assumed it was, you know, probably... I mean, maybe this isn't the best example, but it's like on a similar magnitude of popularity to like The Lighthouse, if that makes sense. Where, you know, it's definitely a big film that a lot of fans like, but it's not, you know, doing crazy blockbuster numbers. If that makes sense.
Well, this is actually anyway. Just real quick, what I was saying about Jurassic Park. I've given up on that. And then before I watch 28 Years Later, I might watch Weeks and Months. Anyway, but I mentioned in a previous podcast episode of Switch 2 Ultra, that they're doing this thing called Ghibli Fest, where every month for like 3 days they have a different Ghibli movie showing in theaters. And I had, prior to this year, only seen The Boy and the Heron, and I was fully prepared to like get the new one in and to put it on my ranking. But that one went from June 22nd to, I think, today. I think it ends today. And it's The Secret World of Arrietty. And Arrietty, a movie I had never heard of, nor have I ever seen. But every single showing I looked for, at least by me, over those 3 days, they were all sold out. And I don't think I've ever seen a movie... I don't think I've ever been on a website where I'm trying to get a ticket and the movie was sold out since, like, Endgame. So I don't know if they just purposefully flubbed the numbers or canceled them at that specific theater, or maybe The Secret World of Arrietty just has a bunch of shooters I didn't know about. Because when I went to go see Kiki's Delivery Service, it was just like me and 2 other groups in the movie. So I don't know what's going on with this one.
That kind of confuses me.
Yeah, have you ever heard of this movie? Because I have not. I was very shocked.
I have not. I've heard of and seen Kiki's Delivery Service.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have in S tier?
The Boy and the Heron. Just because these are the 2 I've seen.
I've heard of it.
I'm just giving everyone an update that I'm probably not going to be able to see The Secret World of Arrietty, but I'll see. I think Totoro is next month, or maybe maybe that's August. So I will come back to this Ghibli ranking. That's why I started this transition by saying, speaking of foreign policy, I know we didn't really get into that, but my Ghibli ranking has remained the same. But to what you were saying about hearing about movies or popular, I think there's sort of a divide. Same thing when it happens when we're talking about video games. And I noticed this when I was doing the long weekend of the Nintendo Switch 2 stream, when I had Logan and Spencer there, and they were saying like, "Oh man, did you hear that like Doom Guy got announced for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4, like he's going to be a guest character?" And I said like, "Oh yeah, we already knew that. We as in a public, as in a populace." And they're like, "Oh, we didn't know that." That there is sort of a divide when you're on the internet and you're job or your placement on the internet is talking about video games, talking about shows, talking about movies. I mean, this is what this whole ranking is. I try and be on top of things. That something that's necessarily popular on the internet or maybe in your circles doesn't necessarily mean it is popular with the general public. And that's why I always try and use like a parental test where I'm like, okay, if people in their 50s, my parents or like their friends or whatever, have heard of this thing, then it's breach containment. I remember being at dinner with my roommate and my roommate's mom, and she's like, oh, have you seen this video? It was like months ago. I guess it was last year, and it was videos of Mudang, that baby hippo, and I was like, okay, this one has breach. This one's on like the Daily Show or whatever.
Yeah. It actually reminds me, well, it's funny seeing my dad look at Wojak memes.
Dad, yeah.
Because Wojak memes, you know, they're on a much different level than they were, you know, 5-6 years ago. I think they really started becoming a thing that's just not only in the chans, for lack of a better term, in maybe 2020. And actually, what you just said reminded me of just like a few days ago. I was, you know, I kind of walked past my parents who were watching TV, and they're like, "Oh, hey, have you ever played one of those Fallout games?" And I'm like,
"Oh, because of the show."
And they're like, "Oh, we're watching the show."
Yeah.
And that really took me aback. You know, it's just like my mom is watching the Fallout show. That doesn't seem like a thing that would happen, but
right.
That, like, I guess the Fallout show has breached containment that my parents are kind of messing with it. You know?
Yeah. And I remember it's such like dumb things that really stick out to me and get me irrationally upset that nobody else has thought of. But I remember seeing a TikTok like years ago of some lady who got really into the Last of Us show, and she's like, oh, these are what video game stories are? Like, why did nobody tell me? What other good video game stories are there out there? And it was basically a woman who was like never played a video game and wrote them all off as like, I guess like Atari or NES games, like they haven't evolved since then. And that's the meme, right? Is that like there have been no games released between Mario and The Last of Us.
The only games are Atari and like Donkey Kong and The Last of Us.
Yeah. And I also just don't... we've talked about this before when it comes to storytelling in games, but the idea, the interpretation that like The Last of Us is sort of the pinnacle, or the first video game even, to have like a good story like that. Like they started being good in 2014 or whatever. And I find that a little insulting. But yeah, that is one of those things that because of extended media, it sort of breaches. I distinctly remember, it's a very strange memory, that I, especially as a kid when I was rapidly consuming as much YouTube as possible, YouTube was mainstream in the sense that like there were news stories about viral videos or whatever, but the YouTube as a culture, and that always seems strange to say, but I do view it as a culture, wasn't understood or accepted. So I never had anything to like level with my parents with, but I remember like just being on my iPod and like listening to something as my dad was driving in the front seat listening to the radio, and the guys on the radio were like, oh, there was this recent video. I think it's because Key and Peele were on the show and they were just talking about it, and they brought up epic rap battles of history. And I remember I took off my headphones, and what they were about to say is like, oh, we've had such episodes, like, and then I started like listing them off and like kind of rapping along with it. And I was like, no, this is the thing. Like, I'm trying to make a connection here. I distinctly remember that because I was impressed with myself. I was like, oh, I could finally use this information of epic rap battles to do something.
That came up a couple times in my life. Epic rap battles is probably a good example when, I make the connection. I meet someone who's also seen it, and it seems so novel that like I've met a person who's seen a video with hundreds of millions of views or some shit.
Right.
I remember a story where Nice Peter went to the White House in like 2014 or something.
He stormed the Capitol.
To storm the Capitol.
Single-handedly. He was just like Darth Vader.
And actually, I think Vsauce was there too, and he technically broke the rules by taking a picture inside of the White House. But it was basically this kind of, a bunch of YouTubers meet up with the president. I think Swoozy was there, and he interviewed Obama, or that might have been a separate event. But I remember Nice Peter, or Epic Lloyd, it might have been Epic Lloyd. One of them said that Obama kind of told them that he really liked the Mitt Romney versus Barack Obama rap battle.
That
I always found out it was really funny. And it's like, yeah, and for some reason I feel like there's an impression that maybe they wouldn't know what that is, but I don't know. I mean, if I was, you know, the president of the United States and there was a video with hundreds of millions of views of someone kind of pretending to be me, I'd probably watch it out of curiosity.
Yeah,
you know
we
what I mean?
were both children in 2008 to I guess, yeah, until 2014. I mean, like, that was, it's basically like our adolescent to teenagers was Obama time. And this is something we talked about at the beginning of the show, at the top of the show, about having indifference when it doesn't directly affect you. Like, when it comes to specifically like Middle Eastern territories, like, Obama was not a great guy. And whenever there's the idea of like living out to Obama era optimism. I always see that string of words a lot. But there was like sort of a different feeling and vibe to like, not that like Obama was like cool, like, oh shit, this is the cool president, but, and again, maybe it's nostalgia, maybe we were kids, but maybe it's not, because there was a lot of stuff like that. You know, Obama had the cast of Hamilton perform at his meeting or whatever he was doing. It was like not a meeting, but it was like a dinner. He had Keegan-Michael Key come out and do the Obama sketch where he was his interpreter. They had like Michelle Obama at like the Kids' Choice Awards and on iCarly and stuff.
Michelle
and I
Obama
think Hannah
on
Montana. Like, it did feel distinctly different, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, admittedly, and this isn't necessarily a good or a bad thing, but news media, television media definitely has a Democratic slant. I don't know if I'd go as far to say that it's an arm of the Democratic Party, although some people will say that. So obviously, I think there's a little bit more friendliness to the idea of, I guess, having the president on, you know, a kid's show when the president is, I guess, you know, a Democratic president.
Yeah,
I think that's one part of it. And I think Trump changed a lot.
Less likely to get into like stateside scandals at the very least.
Yeah. I think Donald Trump changed a lot, just because you know, post Barack Obama, I think that the Republican Party took on a whole new identity, or at the very least has different factions within it now, and maybe I'm not right here. I feel like politics is also a lot more divisive nowadays. That well, I mean,
well, that's another thing. Like, is it like that, or were we just
popular?
Yeah, is it like that, or were we just children like when it was happening?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Joe Biden was on it, like when he was president, was on anything. I don't know if
I don't think so.
What's his wife's name?
Jill Biden.
Jill Biden. I don't think she was on any TV shows.
Kamala Harris did a little message for the Kids' Choice Awards in like 2020, I think. I only recently figured that out.
Case,
but yeah,
maybe it's not that different. Then I guess we were just kids. I also know that Kamala
but like
Harris
Mike Pence didn't do that, obviously. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
It could just be a Democratic.
Yeah, I think it is a red or a blue thing. And since I guess, you know, we've had Donald Trump being an incredibly influential figure in American politics for 10 years now. I actually think we're probably around the 10-year anniversary of him announcing his presidency, which is an embarrassing thing that I can or announcing his running his candidacy. But I think that it's.
When did you first hear that?
I remember in June of 2015. I was at, you know, summer school, not because I was failing classes, because I wanted to get some electives out of the way.
I like school so much.
And my friend, he said, "Oh, did you hear? Donald Trump is running for president." I didn't really know who Donald Trump was. Maybe I'd heard jokes about him before. Guy. Oh yeah, because he was in that one also. I remember there was a John Mulaney bit from like 2008 where he talked about Donald Trump. But you know, I didn't know anyone who watched The Apprentice. I didn't know about The Apprentice. But one of the jokes he kept making is that, yeah, he's probably going to rename the country the United States of Trump, because I guess that was a joke. That was a pre Donald Trump politics joke where he would always name things he buys after himself.
Right.
And it's funny thinking about that kind of era of Donald Trump, because obviously when someone becomes a politician, not even just Donald Trump, they have a whole new kind of scrutiny on them and a whole new identity in the public consciousness. And actually, it reminds me, there was a bit that kind of went viral a few months ago with Donald Trump on Wendy Williams, I think from like 2012,
or
probably,
he's queening
giving
out
this
with
girl
her.
advice. Yeah, he's like queening out, giving this girl advice on dating her boyfriend. It's just like
he just was a
so
celebrity, like.
Yeah, he was just a celebrity, you know?
Right.
I mean, because it's, you know, I never watched The Apprentice, and frankly, I don't know a lot of people who are into reality TV, but it's, I guess, you know, it was popular enough that, you know, got several seasons. I don't know if it's still going on. I think it kept going on even after he was elected, but you know, he's been a pretty significant figure in American culture even before he became he got into politics.
He was at the Kids' Choice Awards before he was the president during that era.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Because they fired somebody out of a cannon, and he said, "You fired," and they shot him into like a big net. Because he was just like a guy. I don't know what he was doing at the Kids' Choice Awards. I don't know what the cross marketing was. I think they just wanted celebrities there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, actually, you know, this is a rant. This is kind of related, but I just remember hearing about it. Or I actually tried to find the clip. Apparently, Larry David was on Hannah Montana. Like he did a cameo where I think he was waiting to get into a restaurant, and Hannah and Lily in their disguise, or like Miley and Lily in their disguises. I think it's Hannah and Lola. They get kind of they get immediately given a table, despite apparently there's a waiting list because, you know, she's a celebrity, and I think he kind of complains. I think it's because his daughter was a fan of the show or something like that.
But that's also something in the show that's like clearly the writers were like fans of him and his work, because that is a very like Larry David bit. But like it's a reference that none of them are going to get.
It's a reference to the Chinese restaurant. None of the kids are going to be like, "Oh yeah, I love the Chinese restaurant episode of freaking Seinfeld."
Remember there was an episode of Sam and Cat where they had the actresses that played like Laverne and Shirley on it, and they were like doing references to like their show, and it's like, who is, like, this is cool. Like that's what I would do if I had a show. I would just make references to other shows that I liked as a kid. But who is it for? Like obviously the kids aren't going to know who those are or what that is. It's just really for the people making it.
Yeah, and I guess parents too. I imagine like if my mom saw that Hannah Montana episode, she might have, to be honest, she probably would have found that hilarious.
And there was a Star Trek episode of Sweet Life on Deck.
Really?
Yeah, I don't remember if Star Trek was ever like. I think like in the later 2010s, like onward, they kind of had a push to make it a bigger brand, like popular with children as well, because they had a Nickelodeon show. But prior to that, it was sort of just like a niche, nerdy thing. But if we can tie all this together, tie in the nostalgia of things that they watched while they were children. I was talking to my parents recently because I was combing through a lot of Hanna-Barbera footage for a different video. And I feel a certain connection to it because I grew up watching Adult Swim shows. And obviously, like, I'm a big fan of MF Doom that would, like, sample those a lot. And those are people that watched those cartoons growing up. Same thing with, like, whenever a cartoon like The Fairly Odd Parents references other ones, it's the ones that the creators grew up with. That there's this constant connection. And I said this before that I've been, just to sleep recently, I've just been watching early Robot Chicken again. Because, one, there's that level of, like, there's a ton of 80s properties that I only understand within the context of Robot Chicken. Like, I think recently they announced, or there's been footage of them filming behind the scenes, that there's a He-Man live-action movie going on right now. And I've also, at the same time, been watching, like, Nostalgia Critic from the beginning, just, like, in the background. Because I do find it novel to have videos of like 20-something, 30-somethings in the 2000s talking about stuff from their childhood that then
it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like talking about stuff that they grew up with. All of those movies that have become like iconic animated films, they're like, oh my god, remember when this came out? Remember when Aladdin came out and we all went to go see it in theaters? Like, that's something really interesting there. But also, well, getting caught up in that doom scrolling of the, again, you know, lying about weapons of mass destruction in Iran, and we're running it back. There is a certain, and in comparison to what we were saying about Obama, like the culture there is, maybe it was just Robot Chicken, but I feel like there was a time where like all the cartoons or shows or whatever portrayed George W. Bush as like a cartoonish dumbass, like basically a cartoon character. And then there were a ton of Newgrounds games at the time about like killing him or blowing him up or playing as him. And I find that really novel too, that he has his own sort of culture that followed him specifically on TV and the internet, where he was just like a Looney Tunes-esque cartoon character.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me, I think it was the election of 2004.
I do not
there was
recall
this
at
whole
all.
video. This very, very well. It's not like I saw it when it
Right.
came out, but I'm embarrassed. I'm gonna embarrass myself because I forget who ran in 2004 other than George W. Bush.
Was that Al Gore?
But I thought Al Gore was 2000, but maybe he ran again.
Okay,
Basically, it's this kind of and it might have been Jib Jab. It's this like video where like it's like, oh, this land is your land. This land is, and it's basically like a parody.
I have seen that.
Yeah. And I remember it kind of went viral a few months ago. Might have been a year or two ago.
It happens like
And
clockwork.
it was interesting. I wasn't sure how big it was, but even my dad remembered it, and he remembered finding it hilarious. And he was telling me about, oh yeah, this is back when people could laugh about politics, blah 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 blah. You know, things your dad says.
Yeah.
But it definitely is indicative of a different political culture. I think, I don't know, what do people share about politics nowadays? I think about what I think about stupid political talk. I think about Twitter, you know.
Yeah.
But
that's what I wanted to say too. Is there was like some tweet about that one streamer. I'm not gonna say his name, but he would wear like Joaquin Phoenix Joker makeup, and it would be really edgy streamer or whatever. He was like screaming the N-word at some dude at the airport, and then the guy posted it, and he was like, this guy was screaming the N-word at me. And apparently like all his fans found that tweet, and it was one of those situations where like you go through the comments and it's like a clan meeting down there. And like most of it was people being like, well, if you got a problem with it, like why don't you just go somewhere else? Or like why don't quote your people stop acting like that? It was people being, you know, like your average racist, aggressive, trying to seem like you're some American hero or whatever. But then there was a small subsect of people posting like tiny Pepe memes again. And it's like, hey, hey guys, I'm looking for all my friends. Like friends, FRENS, like still using those to this day. And I feel like their party or that online ideology has shifted so much into being like pseudo manly, like trying so hard to be like, oh, we're defending, we're traditional men. When like a lot of it is, you know, losers on their computer, as it often is. And there's this like weird coin where on the other side they're saying all this hateful shit, and then there's people who like sound as though they're children who are like babying themselves, even like, oh, I'm just a guy, it's so hard for me to make friends. Are there any friends around here? We could all hang out. Like, and I didn't even know that kind of person still existed. That seemed so 2016 to me, and seeing Pepe the Frog again like that, I was like, this is strange. There's an entire internet I'm not privy to.
Yeah, I don't see Pepe that much anymore. Usually it's like this like fucked up looking Pepe that's all kind of like squished around.
No, it's AI and he's got muscles or whatever.
No, not that one. There's also the Groiper, but it's so funny because I forget what Groipers originally looked like, because it used to just be this this like dumb looking Pepe kind of derivative frog drawing, where he's holding his like hands up to his chin, with this kind of smug face. And now when I just think of Groipers, I think of, you know, Nick Fuentes and just you know his posse.
Yeah, now everyone's got a podcast.
Yeah, it is interesting when a word that like means something very specific just kind of completely means something else after a few years.
Yeah, like lolcow.
It's not like I'm that bothered by, you know, the Groiper drawing not being used much anymore.
What is that term? I always assumed it was like an offensive term.
It's no, so basically, I mean, I don't know what I don't know the what's the word, the etymology of the word, but basically it was like this Pepe meme. Ethan or whoever's editing can put it up. Basically, it's this like frog character kind of holding his, you know, thing up to holding his hands, kind of looking smug. And I think it probably started with, you know, people kind of spamming that image in the replies of people on Twitter or online.
Right.
And because they were posting the Groiper, they got called Groipers or something like that. And because of that, I think I think a lot of them might have been Nick Fuentes fans or something like that, or just kind of on that edge of, you know, right-wing politics, like far-right politics, frankly. Very far right. I'm not
sure.
saying that it's like just a little bit, just a little bit. But I think because they used it so often, they kind of took on the term Groyper or something like that, and just
wear it like a badge of honor.
Nowadays,
in quotes.
And nowadays, you hear people say like, "Oh, I block all Groypers on site" or whatever, and it's just and now at this point, I don't even think of the original image when I hear the term.
Yeah. That's how I feel about blue check marks. I just mute everyone I see. Because block, they get notified. If I mute it, they don't know. And then I just don't have to see any of it. There's... I don't know if it say something to be said. I feel like that it's already been said. I don't want to entrench us in other streamers' drama or whatever, but it's just something I've noticed is interesting as well. That you could just kind of group a bunch... As soon as you have a code word, or just like a word in general for a group of people you don't like, and your audience latches onto it, that's immediately like all arguments are dead forever. I saw that recently with like H3's Meltdown. That's another person people have been calling a lolcow, even though I don't know if it necessarily fits or what that term is anymore. That he coined the term like snark or like snarkers or whatever to be like his detractors. And now everyone in his replies and everyone in his subreddit, anytime there was like any criticism leveled at him, they're like, oh, it's another snarker. I found one in the wild. Or like me 34M and my wife 32F. Like, I just realized she's a snarker. She's posting about all this Hassan stuff. And it's like, this is insane.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about him or any of it to weigh in on it. But what we were talking about earlier when we're specifically about Sinners or just movies in general that we think in our circles potentially are bigger than they are. I didn't see a Ghibli movie, but this weekend, this Friday, I managed to see Elio, the new Pixar movie. And I think, where did I put it on my Letterboxd? Because I'll comparatively...
It's on.
No, go ahead.
I thought I was being helpful. I was going to say, you put it in the bottom left of the two.
Oh, yeah, I see it there. I guess I have it, I just kind of lumped the animated ones together. I have it below Dogman, but above The Day the Earth Blew Up. I don't know if I believe that anymore. Because the more I think about it, the less I think about it. You know what I mean? Where
the movie, specifically?
Yeah, it's... I don't want to compare it to Fantasia, because that's probably really cruel, but, like, it's a beautiful movie made by the most talented artists. I mean, if you're working on a Pixar film, it's a gorgeous-looking film. And animation, I mean, film in general is a visual medium, but animation specifically. But the movie itself, I didn't really feel anything. It's not super, like, a movie about anything. It's totally fine, and it just looks really pretty. But I've seen so many takes on it. One, people, like, comparing the art style to, like, Grubhub, like, not liking the new Pixar style. And I have no issue with the way it's animated. I don't... Like, I know this doesn't apply to Elemental, because that came out, like, only a couple... I think that was last year, maybe, or maybe the year before. But, and I don't want to fall into the trap of old thing good, new thing bad, thing better when I was a kid. But there's something interesting. I don't know if it's a recent thing, but I feel like I've been seeing it more as of late, where when anyone is making something for kids, they automatically assume that it needs to star a kid. Like, oh, if we want to make our superhero show and we want kids to like it, there should be a kid in there. You know, the kid should hang out with, like, the Ninja Turtles. He should be there. Whereas I feel like early 2000s, 90s, and then, like, back, the things that they were making to appeal to children weren't necessarily about kids. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And even, like, a show like Rugrats, like, the joke was that they were babies. And that even, like, appealed to a lot of parents for some reason. Maybe, like, Bart Simpson was the first one where they're like, oh, shit, we gotta make, like, a kid character. Granted, in the 80s, there probably was a lot of that. But if you think about the previous Pixar films, the ones that are highly regarded and did really well, you know, your Incredibles, your WALL-E, your Ratatouille, your Monsters, Inc., which are about adults, monsters, robots, a rat, and another adult, that I think the last, other than Soul and Elemental... The last, like, 3 or 4 Pixar movies, I'm going to put an asterisk next to Luca because they're technically half human, have all been about human children. And I like Turning Red. I like it more than most. And I don't even dislike Elio. But I don't see why all of these, just because they're animated films for children and this sounds really bad out of context. It sounds like when adults like go into kid spaces and they're like, why is this thing for kids? It should be for me. I don't agree with that. I think it's fine to make your movie for children, but I think Pixar still has a barrier of quality. I mean, I put the Looney Tunes and the Dogman movie above it. These are movies for children, but I still liked the writing way more than Elio, and I think Dogman is probably just a visually more interesting movie. And Elio wasn't bad, and I like the character of Elio, but I don't see why every modern Pixar movie needs to star a human child. I hope the next one is about monsters or robots or aliens or toys or something. Like, imagine if Toy Story was about Andy, or the Little Nemo, that's the video game. Finding Nemo was about the girl in the dentist office. Like, it doesn't need to be about the child.
Yeah. And I think often when you do that, it's a little bit easier for people to kind of connect with the character because it's more abstract. Though I don't know 100%. I mean,
I loved Regular Show as a kid. I didn't know what it was like to be a 20-something slacker, but I saw them and I'm like, this is so cool.
I mean, I guess one thing I'd say about the value of having a child character is that, at least for me personally, one of my favorite shows growing up was Phineas and Ferb. We've been talking about it. And I think one thing I really liked about the show is that I kind of liked imagining myself being like Phineas or whatever, these kind of like smart brainiac kids that can just build stuff. And if they were, well, I mean, I think that was always an appealing kind of premise to me. That being said, I mean, that's just my one anecdote.
Yeah. But then comes the other arguments I've seen, and the Twitch chat is talking about Catch Up Entertainment picking up Coyote versus Acme. That I feel like after getting The Day the Earth Blew Up, they got Coyote versus Acme. That The Day the Earth Blew Up, it didn't do like fantastic, but considering that there were no trailers really and no marketing, and it just spread through word of mouth, it did pretty well. Same goes for something like Bring Her Back, and even Sinners to a certain degree. Like, I don't know if you saw any Sinners ads or Sinners commercials, but I feel like that movie predominantly spread through word of mouth. And even something like the Minecraft movie, although Minecraft is a popular IP, mostly spread through memes, and people would go to the theater just to be obnoxious. And I think word of mouth is a very valuable thing. Granted, when it comes to movies like 28 Years Later, which I haven't seen yet, it might be a little bit before I see it because I'm going to see it with someone. And then Elio, which I've seen a lot of people on animation Twitter complain that these movies have not been marketed. Like, whenever a movie doesn't do well, they always... I don't want to say they, but like, you know, a group of people will always blame it on the marketing or the company. Like, oh, they didn't promote this movie. They set it up to fail. I don't think Disney set up Elio to fail. And I think that the idea that these movies don't have marketing is a little bit of a misnomer, and just like, it's, I believe, and maybe, again, like, we're in our own circles. We think our experiences are universal. But I go to the movie theater every week. I'm constantly seeing movies there. And I saw trailers for all of these movies. Even when I went to go see Dogman, I saw a trailer for The Day the Earth Blew Up. Like, these movie trailers are playing at the movie theaters. But I also have YouTube Premium, and I feel like most people have ad blockers, that there's probably a lot of YouTube ads for these movies as well. So when I see people say, like, oh, these movies didn't have any marketing, it's like, okay, where could they market that you would see it? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, where do I still get advertisements? I guess one place I'd think of is, you know, Twitter advertisements. I don't get that.
Well, those are not movies anymore. It's all blue check marks trying to sell their Bitcoin or racist ideology or Bibles.
One thing that's kind of interesting is that, you know, because I went to Disney World a few months ago, I have a lot of emails from Disney World.
Yeah.
And looking at it now, none of them mention Elio.
That is interesting.
Which isn't actually super indicative of anything in one direction, but like, you know, I feel like there's been times where the new Pixar movie has, you know, some sort of tie-in with other Disney properties, whether it be the parks or the TV shows or, I don't know, stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like, maybe there have been Elio commercials on the Disney Channel, but like, who's currently watching to police that? Like, how do you know there's been zero marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I think to myself, Marvel movies, at least a lot of the really kind of like, I think I'm pretty sure I saw a good amount of what's it called, Thunderbolts advertisements, but I didn't see a single Elio advertisement.
That's another word of mouth thing. I did see a lot of Thunderbolts advertisements, but I would always see. I think I don't follow a lot of these accounts or a lot of these big brands because, again, the check marks. But sometimes I think a lot of people get their marketing or film information from like film discussion Twitter accounts, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
new trailer
definitely.
for this." So every time there's a new Superman or Fantastic Four trailer, I see them. But there's a possibility that there have been Elio trailers, probably posted to Disney's like YouTube channel, that these accounts just aren't posting because they know they don't do numbers. Twitch chat says I've seen
That's a
Elio
good
ads
part
on
of it, too.
TikTok. I guess the comparison is something like the live action Lilo and Stitch, and they're like, oh, we have animatronic Stitch walking the red carpet or driving around the movie theater. Now the way to market your movie is having a viral popcorn bucket. Like, oh, they've unveiled the new popcorn bucket. But every major movie has a popcorn bucket now. Even like Elio had one. And like Megan 2.0, which is coming out soon, has one, and it's just her head. I don't know what would qualify as marketing. I think it's really easy to say like, oh, this company is just completely abandoned this movie and isn't marketing it. But I think
Nintendo has forgotten about Mario.
Yeah, I think that's sort of an opinion that only really comes about when you don't. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go. I understand that there's extenuating circumstances. But people that don't go to the movies, if you go to the movies, you're going to see posters for all these. You're going to see trailers. You're going to see ads on the kiosk. You're going to see popcorn buckets. And Elio had all of them. I just think people didn't really want to see it. I do think there's a level of human error here when it comes to, let's say, like Elio, which is a fresh new take and a new animated feature by Pixar, as opposed to Lilo and Stitch, the live-action Lilo and Stitch movie. And I remember
the
I saw...
Lilo and Stitch movie is doing well, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that people who are only on Twitter are saying, like, oh my god, everyone said they weren't gonna see it. Where did that go? It's like, oh, it's probably just families who aren't on Twitter who went to the movie, and they wanted to go with their kids for Labor Day weekend. And what else are they gonna see? Like Mission Impossible, the Thunderbolts? Like, that's the only kids movie in theaters.
The Snow White movie didn't do that well, right?
At least I don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'd assume that both of those movies would do similarly well or badly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess a lot of people saying that Elio got shafted might also kind of claim that Disney kind of wanted to bury the Snow White movie because of like Rachel Zegler or something like that.
I think it's more like who has nostalgia for Snow White as opposed to Lilo and Stitch.
That might be part of it too. But yeah, I definitely am not.
Millennials watched Lilo and Stitch when they were kids, so they're gonna bring their kids. But I mean,
I like
Snow White came out in what, the 60s? 30s? Yeah,
no, 30s.
So, I mean, that's cool, but I don't know if there's a lot of nostalgia for Snow White. I watched it as a kid too, but not as much as I watched the 90s Renaissance films.
Yeah.
But
we were a big Little Mermaid family.
Ooh, I remember oh man, what was ours? We would just watch TV a lot, and Disney Channel would often just air a lot of their movies, not as Disney Channel original movies, but during the movie block, just whatever movies they had on standby. And I think that's how I first saw a lot of Pixar movies and a lot of early Disney movies. I saw that, like, the Goofy movie and probably Aladdin, stuff like that just aired on Disney Channel with commercials. And I think that's the vibe, and this is probably really unkind because I liked the movie, and I love animation, and I want it to prosper, and I prefer Pixar releasing films with original ideas as opposed to, like, Toy Story 5. But Elio felt like a movie I would catch on the Disney Channel, like, as it was airing.
Because you wouldn't actually really want to watch it? Or,
no, I mean, I like seeing movies in theaters, but it just kind of had that vibe of, like, a Pixar movie you forget about, and then it's airing on TV, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll watch this. I don't think it's going to be...
Some good dinosaur type shit?
Yeah, and I don't even think I'm necessarily being unkind and comparing it to Pixar movies I grew up with, because I think Soul and Turning Red will stand the test of time. Specifically Soul.
Oh, really?
I think those movies are really good. And Elio, again, isn't bad. There's nothing in Elio that I'm like is objectively bad or something I didn't like. I just didn't care that much about it.
Yeah. I'm curious. Still, I always forget. Was Coco a Pixar film, or was that just Disney Animation Studios?
Oh man, I think it was Disney
I think
Animation.
it might have been Disney. Let me see.
Yeah,
Let me search it up.
because it would have been. I guess it would have been right before the pandemic. I know The Good Dinosaur, and then they went on a slight.
Yeah. Oh no, it was Pixar. Wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that stands the test of time. Even, like, no, I guess those are the main ones. Is Coco, Turning Red? Because I know there was that Chris Pratt, Tom Holland one that came out during the pandemic or right before.
Oh yeah.
That is
Onward.
like, yeah, the meme of like casting Tom Holland and everything. That movie doesn't really stand out. Even Elemental, which I think that was Pixar, or maybe that was just Disney.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
Let me search it up.
That movie definitely had marketing. They were marketing that Claude character
Yeah,
a lot
like,
for whatever reason. But that one, like, I almost immediately forgot about. That's another one that feels like, oh, this is something I would catch on the Disney Channel.
Are Pixar movies coming out more often now?
I think they have one every year or maybe every other year, but they alternate between a new movie. That's what I'll say about these Pixar films is like when it came to The Day the Earth Blew Up, I felt a little bit of a responsibility, and you never want to have a bias when you go into a movie, but I felt like even if I didn't like it, I wanted it to do well and I wanted people to see it so that we see more 2D animated films in theaters. But I don't really worry about that with Pixar is because I mean, Elio got made in general, but last year was Inside Out 2. I think before that was Elemental, and then before that was Lightyear, like some other sequel movie. So I think what they do is every other year it's an original Pixar movie, and then every alternating year it's like a reboot or a remake or a sequel.
Yeah, no, never mind. I think I was just kind of planting some shit in my head because, first of all, when I was a kid. Like, for example, I remember Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, and Up, and frankly, Toy Story 3. I remember every single year the amount, the amount of noise those movies would make was very noticeable for me. But then again, I was watching the Disney Channel, so that's a whole other thing. But I mean, I get the impression that those movies were pretty popular. Maybe not. I'm not sure if they're.
I mean, it depends on how much stake you put in, like, award season, because a lot of them were at least nominated for stuff.
Yeah. I think also back then there was a lot more optimism about Pixar in general.
Yeah.
I think back then they still had the reputation,
also
a much higher reputation.
Granted, because there's a separate category for animated films, there aren't that many animated films every year anyway. So, like, Ralph Breaks the Internet was also nominated, so I don't know how much stake you would put in that. I remember they made a bunch of pre-made kiosks to put on the DVDs at like Walmart or whatever that said Oscar winner or best animated picture winner or whatever because they thought they were going to win and then they didn't, so there were a bunch of those just like in the backs of Walmarts or Targets or whatever. It's like, well, we have all these. I don't even know what won that year, but yeah, ultimately I'm not worried that like Elio flopping. I think Disney and Pixar, although it is obviously the same company, don't have the same issue. Like when it comes to Disney, to like Disney animated films, it really is just Moana 2, Frozen 2, and then live action remakes of their previous installments. I don't even know what the last original like Disney animated film was. Maybe
was it Zootopia?
I think it was Encanto, right?
Let's see. Oh yeah,
yeah, because that was Encanto, and that did well. So maybe we'll get Encanto too. But I'm not as worried with Pixar because it does seem like every other year there is an original Pixar movie.
What about Moana 2? Wait, sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Moana 2, Frozen 2, and then live action remakes.
Wish. There was Wish.
Oh my god, I forgot about Wish. You're right. I forgot that even happened. I guess I could rest easy that even if these movies don't do well, that Disney is still making them. They have like 18 million studios. So. Although I think for a while there, when it came to like live action Aladdin and live action Lion King, that it seemed like they were going to move away from making original animated features and instead just constantly remake their movies in live action. And while I don't care for the live action remakes, I don't think I care about them as much as I did. Like now I'm just not indifferent, but I feel nothing about them. But before I felt like searing hatred. I'm like, oh, this is going to ruin the animation industry. Because, you know, being an animation fan, especially when it comes to feature films, is not for the faint of heart. Especially if you like 2D animation releasing theatrically in theaters. But I'm not worried about it. I think they're going to keep making Pixar movies and keep making Disney animated movies because they're still probably do decent enough. And even if they don't, they want to have a new legacy IP. Whereas something like
we did forget about Strange World and Raya and the Last Dragon.
Oh my god. I saw Strange World in theaters. I forgot about that. That movie was good. I remember liking it.
Yeah, it was a loss though for the company.
That makes sense.
Raya was a loss as well, or maybe it wasn't a loss. I assume they always kind of lowball the budgets because I think they often don't include marketing.
Yeah,
but
I think these movies they just make for Disney Plus, and they're like, yeah, we might as well release them in theaters as well. I think more movies should just stay in theaters. I don't know how expensive it is to keep your movie in theaters, but I'm kind of hoping they're still showing Mission Impossible for at least another week or so I could take people to go see it during like a vacation or a break. I think Sinners is close to like running its thing, but I don't remember, but there's this ideation idea that like movies that are really popular will stay in the theater throughout the entire summer. Whereas nowadays it feels like if I don't see the movie the first or second week, it's just going to be gone.
Mm-hmm. I remember as a kid watching Frozen in January, and it came out in November.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of thinking like, oh wow, I'm lucky that I got it because it's probably going to be taken out of theaters soon. Mm-hmm. I always assumed the period is usually like 2 months.
Even like the Minecraft movie, that was only really like a month or so.
Yeah.
They did re-release it, but most movies go to streaming very early, and obviously I hope.
Oh yeah, I think I saw the Minecraft movie on streaming earlier.
Yeah.
The other day, and I was surprised. But actually, it does seem like it's coming out sooner and sooner because I remember as a kid watching The Hunger Games when it came out and really wanting to watch it again, but there was like a good 3 or 4 months after it was taken out of theaters before it kind of came out on DVD, and I remember being so frustrated by that.
Yeah. And obviously, I appreciate that more people have access to these movies for convenience. But again, I have the same stance I always do, which is I think more people should go to the theater, and I think it's really fun because I like going to the theater. We're gonna move away from the ranking, but I just want to say, like in the previous year, I think I ranked Amazing Digital Circus episodes individually because they dropped them individually, as opposed to me ranking season 1 in like 2027 or whatever. And maybe I will do that because I eventually did that with Helluva, even though those episodes dropped intermittently. And I think Amazing Digital Circus is one of those shows that sort of like Gravity Falls, or maybe even it's sort of a middle ground between, not like tonally, but like Gravity Falls and then something like Too Many Cooks, where people focus on the mystery and like, oh, we're going to unravel this and all the character theories and like, oh, the horror aspects, like how spooky this thing is. Now, they don't really discuss how funny this show is. And that happens a lot with Gravity Falls up until recently when people were posting their favorite clips, or even like Adult Swim infomercials like Too Many Cooks, where people are like, oh my God, this thing's so scary. And you watch it and it's just really, really funny. And I think that's an unsung win for the Amazing Digital Circus, is how funny it is. And I saw a clip being shared around that people were like, oh, this kind of feels like a Smiling Friends clip. But Amazing Digital Circus always gave me Smiling Friends vibes. I think it is like a funny show. I think I'll put it below Dogman because at least that was like a fully formed movie. But I did like the episode. I laughed a lot. Similarly, just so we can move away from the ranking, a couple side things is that we are, I think, 5 weeks away from me finishing Moon Girl Season 2 and Jellystone Season 3 and Andor, and I put Tales from the Underworld here. And Tales from the Underworld is 2 3-episode arcs by, I guess, the Clone Wars team. And I watched the first 3 episodes and I was ready to drop it. And then on a whim on our watch day on Sunday, I just watched the 4th episode and I liked the second arc way more. Similarly, even though the entire show is really good, the same thing is happening with Andor Season 2 that happened with Season 1, where we're now entering an arc, like the second to last arc, because Andor has entire seasons, but they're in like 3-episode arcs. And Season 2 has 3 episodes and then a time skip, 3 episodes and then a time skip. And the part we are right now, like that episode I saw last night, which I think is maybe the 3rd or 4th to last, was fantastic. I was slack-jawed. I was just shocked the entire time. I was on the edge of my seat. And I don't think Andor is inconsistent, but I do think that its later arcs are always way better, and I felt the same way about Season 1. And then also the Stugo episode I watched last night I thought was really funny, and Rick and Morty is okay. And I'm still slowly making my way through Phineas and Ferb. I have, however, seen a lot more people posting about Phineas and Ferb. That is the part of Twitter that people don't really talk about being fun is that sometimes they're like, oh, post your favorite clip from this show. And it happens a lot with 30 Rock, but I'm glad it's happening with Phineas and Ferb. Two things, potentially. Now I can finally weigh in on this because I'm trying to pick my battles better. And I bit my tongue and sat on my hands. Last week I ranked Materialists and Ballerina. After I saw the Materialists, and I'm like, that was not very good. There was another viral tweet of someone comparing it to The Substance in the Barbie movie and putting it in a category of films written and directed by women that are, like, critically misunderstood by men or whatever. And I took umbrage with that, not as a man, but as someone who likes the Barbie movie and The Substance. And I think Materialist is just not nearly as good as those films. And I really wanted to say something, but I knew if I did that I would fall right into the trap of being like a presenting man who's against this movie. But since then, since I held my tongue, more people have been like, no, this movie's bad. And they've been like female reviewers. So I feel vindicated. I'm going to bump it down to the top of C the more I think about it. And also, I recently added Tales of the Underworld and other stuff that, like, I started on the side that came out earlier this year. I watched one episode of the Netflix Devil May Cry show, and I really have no allegiance to Devil May Cry, but I heard good things about the show, and then I'm like, I don't really need to watch this. Maybe I will go back to it at some point. All I know is that the head writer or the director of that show is being like a baby and a dickhead and annoying about everything. I know I held my tongue and I didn't say my piece when he was doing an interview and he was upset to learn that they were making a new Devil May Cry game because he wanted to be the one to like bring it back into public consciousness and he wanted his version to be the best version. And then the other day he posted about like Duke Nukem and he's like, I don't care about the original company. Like I'm going to put my name on it. Like he's seemingly doing a bit about having an ego, but in actuality, he just has an ego. And now he's been fighting with my good friend Salty, and friend of the show, Salty DK Dan on Twitter.com. So I wouldn't even say fuck that guy. I think he's sad and unfortunate and funny. So maybe I'll watch more of the Devil May Cry show and weigh in more on that. But that's all I have to do with the ranking. But before we hop into the purpose of this podcast episode, which is the Donkey Kong Bonanza, we do have some breaking news breaking yesterday, which is the official trailer. I don't know if this is a trailer, but this was... I don't know if it was posted on Twitter. I think it was posted initially on the Nintendo Today app. And that's... We were wondering why for a long time, why they were doing this Nintendo Today app thing, even though it seemed like nobody was really using it. And we were speculating on, oh man, when is the next Nintendo Direct going to be? That it seems like those things, maybe we're going to get another Direct at some point, maybe later in the year. But it seems more and more, like at least for the first year of the Switch 2, that Nintendo Directs are sort of a thing of the past. Because we got that one Splatoon game just randomly announced on the app. And now we have a release date for Drag X Drive, which is August 14th. I think 2 or 1 week before Kirby and the Forgotten Land Nintendo Switch 2 edition with the added DLC. This game I'm still very mixed up. It doesn't look any better than when we first saw it. It's only $20 though, which is like 10 more than Welcome Tour, but it seems very bare bones. And
yeah, do we know if this is like a full-on first-party Nintendo game or it's kind of
I think it is. I think it's like by the ARMS team or something. I mean, it's a fully gimmicked out game. But yeah, just the character designs and the core, maybe that's because, like, say what you will about ARMS being a gimmick, at least that had characters and stages and music.
Yeah,
like this
doesn't really give me the impression of being a Nintendo game, just because there's not as much like the characters aren't super recognizable or kind of unique looking. It seems like a common. It's yeah. I mean, that's one word to use, and I don't entirely disagree. But I was trying to avoid words like that.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like usually Nintendo really likes to have, even if it's not necessarily named characters, a certain kind of visual direction that's instantly recognizable. At least with their serious games like Splatoon. I mean, Splatoon was visually very distinct from other games. I mean, just because of the Inklings and stuff like that. ARMS too. I mean, I think the springs help a lot. But this one, I feel like there's not. It doesn't give me much of a different vibe than. I'd say Rocket League is more of a vibe in this game.
Yeah. That's a distinct looks. Even if that had like car tie-ins from real cars. But all of the hanging chads that could potentially point towards a new Direct was like, oh, We don't know the release date of Pokemon Legends ZA. Now we do, just randomly on a day it's announced. And we still have the Pokemon Direct in July. We don't know the release date of Drag X Drive. Now we do, just randomly on a day. We don't know what the deal is with Smallene and all the other Donkey Kong stuff and where Diddy Kong is. But now we do because of the Donkey Kong Direct. And maybe there will be individual game directs, but I don't presume we're going to see anything more about this game until it comes out. I don't think there's going to be another trailer.
Maybe they'll say something on Twitter. I mean, I feel like I might push back a little bit on what you just said, just because there have been times, I'm pretty sure, where they've just kind of dropped release dates on social media. At least I'm pretty sure there have been. So I guess Nintendo today is a way to kind of supplement that. But I don't know if this is necessarily too indicative of where directs are going. I think generally, especially for games that they're not exactly banking on being bestsellers,
I just don't think we're going to get one in the summer anymore.
Yeah, they might not, especially because when you think about it, I mean, we had a lot of directs earlier on in the year, and frankly, the idea of them announcing a bunch of games that are coming out over the next year for the Switch, and then also games for the Switch too, it seems a bit hectic that I'm not really surprised that we're not getting a direct, although, you know, I'd love there to be a direct.
So all we don't have are release dates for Kirby Air Riders and then Metroid Prime 4. Granted, I don't know if I can, editor, I think it might be Jade tonight. If you can find the post, maybe I'll look for it. There were Metroid Prime 4 ads on like a train, or maybe, like an underground transit system, where the poster said Metroid Prime 4 coming soon, or not coming soon, but like it said out now actually. So it was like, they accidentally like posted these posters early, but if they already have posters that say out now, then it probably is soon. And I don't know. I don't think they would shadow drop Metroid Prime 4, but they did do it with Prime Remastered. Yeah, one day they're like, the game's out.
Well, did they say summer 2024 or autumn 2024? I forgot. They said
holiday, right? Or did they say that for ZA?
ZA, they said holiday, and it ended up being, I think,
late
October,
I think
November.
Metroid Prime 4 just says 2025, so we don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, if we're doing math, I'm going to consult my calendar real quick. It seems like throughout the summer, they want things constantly coming out. And starting with July 17th is Donkey Kong Bonanza. The week after that is Super Mario Party Jamboree Plus. And then there's a Gap Week, another Gap Week, and then Drag X Drive, and then a Gap, and then Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And then a Gap, and then Daemon X Machina 2, I guess, if they care about that. So there's 3 or so weeks in that later summer. I mean, now we're officially in the summer. Technically, anything before June 20th is spring. It really depends on who you ask. But, welcome to the first Switch 2 Ultra of Season 25 of the summer. Anyway, there are a couple gaps there if they wanted to have something coming out every week that they could put in there. But a lot of these games seem pretty major to be releasing all this stuff. Like Drag X Drive, additional stuff for Mario Party, additional stuff for Kirby. These all seem to just kind of buffer out the launch year if there's not a lot of other stuff going on. I would be surprised if they announced or launched another game coming out the same month or month after or even season as Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think Bonanza is going to be the big summer game, but you could argue Mario Kart was going to be that as well. So the only two release dates we don't have.
I'd say Mario Kart more so. I imagine Mario Kart World's going to sell better than Bonanza.
Yeah. I feel most people are going to get the bundle, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not just with the bundle, but also I think Mario Kart is definitely more of a bestseller type.
I know people that already went out to buy a Switch 2 after seeing me play it just to get Mario Kart, new Mario Kart.
Wow, really?
Yeah, my buddy did that.
Wow.
And I felt vindicated.
Nintendo should give us review copies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're just
Actually, that reminds me, when I was a kid, there were times where I was kind of like not that motivated to make videos, but then I would occasionally watch like a Nintendo YouTuber say they got a free review copy, and that would motivate me to make videos.
God,
I thought, maybe one day I'll get review copies.
I didn't say this, or maybe I did say it on stream. I tried to sign up for the recent Gex program for like streamers or YouTubers or whatever, because I don't know if you've seen, but over the last week, I think between podcast episodes, there's been, like, there was a Mega 64 Gex Trilogy video. Scott the Woz did like a special Gex Trilogy video on his second channel. They were paid to play the game on their second channel. Coney did an entire subathon where he just played the Gex Trilogy and wouldn't end the stream until he finished it, and he was in a giant lizard costume, or I guess a gecko costume. But clearly, nobody cares about Gex that much. This is a paid effort. And I think it would have... I'm not going to get the game unless they pay me to play it, but I wanted to be a part of that Gex program. I think that would have been fun. But that was another game that I suppose released between the weeks, is the Gex Trilogy. Or maybe it was Croc that I applied for. One of those. Every 3D platform gets like a collection now to hopefully, and if they do well, you know, you follow the market. Where same thing with Battle for Bikini Bottom or the Insane Trilogy. If your game does well, you now have a engine to build your new game in it, like the Cosmic Shake or like Crash Bandicoot 4. So I can't wait to see the new 3D Gex for the Nintendo Switch too. But yeah, there was... I think that's really... I obviously, like, I don't know if it's going to change the tide of the game, but maybe as a kid when I saw that, like, whenever I'd watch a Peanut Butter Gamer video and he'd be like, this video is paid for by Activision or THQ or whatever, I'd be like, oh boy, this is going to be a biased video. But I do think it's fun to just have a week where everyone's like, yeah, this is the week we make our Gex video. I also think it is really funny to specifically pay Scott the Woz and friends to discuss Gex, because they have had a running joke for Gex on their channel lore for a while. So yeah, I forgot to cover that. But now we know the release date, August 14th, for Drag X Drive. It has a lot of shooters in the chat, evidently, that are really, I think ironically, but pulling for Drag X Drive. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to play it on launch day. I just think I'm going to not enjoy it that much. If this is in fact what the game is.
Support? Or is there game share support?
Well, that's the thing is I still don't know if we're going to see anything about it until the game comes out. Maybe like another Nintendo Today trailer, because they've been dropping like little gameplay trailers. We talked about this last week or the week before. I think the week before. For Drag X Drive. So maybe we'll get little snippets, but I can't... There seems to be little to no hype about this game. Unless we get that... Maybe I'm going to eat my words and we're going to get a Drag X Drive Direct in August. Because switching gears to this Donkey Kong Direct...
No, I doubt it.
Which is only 18 minutes. 17 or so. Now, did you watch this Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct that came out the weeks between?
I did. I watched it live.
All right. I took a lot of notes here, so we're going to go through, and we're going to do it without the audio. But, however, with the opening, I was playing here, there is an opening song. And I don't just mean there's like a track playing, like a video game track. I mean like an actual song with lyrics. And
I'm like kind of over the opening song for Nintendo games thing. You know what I mean? I'm like...
Well, I don't know. What else has them other than Odyssey and Ultimate?
Yeah, no, it's like Odyssey and Ultimate. I feel like there was another game.
Maybe Kirby, maybe when they were like driving in Forgotten Land.
I think they did. Like there was another game that had like an opening song, and I'm like, all right, guys, you know, you hired a singer.
I think this is more indicative of what we've been saying before. I mean, what everyone's been saying, that this is, they still haven't announced it yet, but this is very clearly the 3D Mario team, the Odyssey team. And I still see a lot of that, of people asking me on other streams, like, hey, when do you think the next 3D Mario is? And I'm always like, guys, I hate to break it to you. Like, I think this Donkey Kong game internally is the new 3D Mario. Like, I don't think they're sitting on a 3D Mario that's going to come out next year. I think this is what the Odyssey team has been working on. And I think we're having a Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube situation, where Nintendo views a Mario character as important as Mario. Not to say that this game is going to do poorly, because I don't think it will. I don't think it's going to sell as much as Mario Kart, but I don't think it's going to do poorly. But I think if you're holding out for like a 3D Mario game next year, or even the year after, you're probably getting your hopes up too much. This is very clearly modeled after Odyssey.
Yeah, as excited as I am for this game, and honestly, I am really excited. It looks really cool. I'm a little bummed out about that because it does seem very Odyssey-esque. And although it looks fun, I think it's not going to have... It's going to have a different style of gameplay, a different flavor. Yeah. That's not really the kind of stuff you usually get in, 3D Mario games, which is fine because it's not a 3D Mario game entirely, although in some ways it seems to have a lot of similar design philosophies.
Yeah. Prior to this Direct, I'm just like, oh, this is a 3D Donkey Kong game. And it still is, but there's a lot of stuff in this Direct that takes after not just Odyssey, but also Breath of the Wild, and even a little bit of Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah. And that's one reason I think it's so cool, is that it really does seem, God, I forgot what the word is, just kind of drawing from a lot of influences. No, not indicative. Although I say indicative a lot.
It's a good one. I like that choice. I like that this opening bit feels kind of like
I'm blanking on the word, but it's a gorgeous word. I just can't think of it right now. But
a
basically, yeah, it's
word.
drawing from a lot of it's drawing from a lot of influences, and there's a lot of Rareware there. There's a lot of Donkey Kong 64, which actually is Rareware, but I'm just kind of talking about like Rareware in general.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Mario too, and I mean there's with the whole Pauline thing. I feel like that's kind of very Odyssey, and now that I think about it, I think having Pauline as a character kind of makes having a song make sense. I mean, if they had Pauline and voiced her, which they do in this game, and there was no tie-in song for the game, I think that would have been weird.
Or it's like the bit in Sword and Shield where they have the pop star gym leader character, and he's very clearly singing into the mic, but there's no voice whatsoever. Also, this opening bit feels like an in memoriam. Like it's kind of grayscale, and it's playing like sad music that we can't hear.
Yeah, I guess it's like Donkey Kong died.
I guess it technically is for the Odd Rock because once we get the reveal, we're not gonna see Odd Rock that much anymore.
Yeah.
Because after the treehouse in the original trailer, we're like, oh, Odd Rock's gonna be like the main guy who follows him throughout the entire game. I think the in memoriam is for him. We're gonna get more on that transitional period, like where he's diving, but here's where we get the reveal of what the Odd Rock is. We knew this is also DK's opening design, like we saw in the treehouse. That's what he wears in the first level. The reveal of Smalline, the eclectic, nice. The character we've been waiting for that I believe Nintendo of Korea accidentally leaked.
Yeah, they did.
We now know. Also, it says, where does it say? Does it say? Wait, before that, yeah, show us what you've got, and then we get the nice little Smalline reveal. And then
how does that work? Is she? I think it's like a magical transformation because there's no way she can move
think she's
in that
inside
thing.
the rock.
And the mouth kind of jumps up and down like it's a South Park Canadian. So realistically, when the mouth talks, you would see Pauline's body inside of there. So I guess that's my first issue with Donkey Kong Bonanza.
That's one sin against it.
So,
It's got the TikTok undertones, the pink and blue on this side, and more on that later.
Bisexual lighting.
Yeah. This is also, in the background of this sequence, is, I believe, and I watched this back multiple times, I took a lot of notes, I'm pretty sure this is a second different song. A different song from the one that was playing in the opening. And I think it's different because I'm pretty sure it's in Japanese. Like, it's sort of like how World of Light, Lifelight, that song, had it had multiple different versions for different languages you were playing in. But in the background, it's playing a Japanese song with lyrics. And I have to assume that is another Smalline song. I also, like I said, the song they're playing at the beginning, I have to assume is also sung by her. So, what you were saying about, like, it being like Odyssey, that was only really one song. It was just Jump Up Superstar. I guess there was also a song at the end when you were playing as Bowser, but that wasn't in-canon, like, diegetic Pauline music. Where it seems that this game, maybe, like, we talked about DK64 and even, like, Donkey Kong Country and, like, older arcade Donkey Kong, seems like they're taking from a lot of places. For a while, Donkey Kong was like Nintendo's like rhythm game guy. Like aside from Rhythm Heaven, you would get the bongo peripheral and you would play like Donkey Konga. So there seems to be a lot of that as well, like singing, music, instruments, anything here in Bonanza, a lot of an amalgamation of Donkey Kong. But yeah, there's a second song playing back here. And I imagine it's one that we're going to get an English version of when the game is actually out, but that's already a second voiced original song. And I think also, did we get to it already, or did we skip? I think we're going to get to it. But these are the golden bananas, the Banandium gems? Banandium gems. That's what I have. Now this bit, obviously, our in memoriam for Odd Rock, who we will... Odd Rock's going to be one of those characters that you play, you get for the first hour of the game, assuming whenever that Smalline reveal is, because it has to be very soon if it's right after the first level.
Maybe after the first or second level,
yeah. This is a very cute design, by the way. That it's going to be one of those characters that... Oh, these bits right here, where they're doing
different...
She's
really short for a 13-year-old.
Is she supposed to be 13? Maybe Donkey Kong's just huge. Also, she's like homeless, I think.
Yeah.
She has to be. Fucking barefoot, ripped clothes. Like, yeah. But... And also, it's sort of like a caveman vibe a little bit. We don't know what era this is
like
set
a little bit kind of unruly in a good way.
Definitely seen
like
a lot of people discussing the timeline and the repercussions of what this could mean.
It's
that
kind
the
of
young
pissing me off.
Smalley
Like this kind of makes me mad because I'm really not sure.
That's interesting.
I mean, I guess people say that Mario, it's never had a cohesive timeline, and they're right. I mean, it's not. They're not wrong. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's actually an explanation for why she's here, why Cranky's here, why Donkey Kong's here. I kind of want there to be an explanation because I feel like young Pauline here, I mean, there's a reason why they did young Pauline, and I want there to be an explanation that makes sense, but I'm not super optimistic on there being an explanation that makes sense.
What if my thing is that, I mean, obviously, like, the spin-offs don't count. You know, your tennis, your carts, your parties, or whatever. Those have never been tied into the Mario plot, if there is one at all. So I think this is less of, like, tying it into previous Mario games and more about, like, sort of a Mario Odyssey Onward-esque retcon where instead of, like, I don't think there's anything in Odyssey that directly says, like, oh yeah, Mario, I'm Pauline, I was kidnapped by Donkey Kong.
She doesn't mention
and you
it.
saved me. Right. They just have a sprite of Donkey Kong.
I think there are lines where she's like, "Oh, that reminds me of an old experience I had," or something where it kind of implies like,
maybe she's talking about this. Maybe this is how we get new Donk City. This is a prequel to Odyssey specifically, and this isn't country Donkey Kong that we've had for a while that we're slowly phasing out. This is the Mario universe Donkey Kong, and it's going to be tied in with Mario. That being said, it's strange to release a remake of Mario vs. Donkey Kong for the Game Boy Advance last year, if that's what you were going to go with, but I guess they just really needed to get that out somewhere.
Yeah, and frankly, I think this is the Mario universe, Pauline, I mean Donkey Kong, sorry, is kind of frustrating in its own way, to be totally honest with you.
You think so? I mean, I love Mario, but I never thought that much about how the game's tied. As far as I'm concerned, the Switch is sort of like a soft reboot, like... Well, I mean, if we really want to get into lore implications, technically at the end of the first Super Mario Galaxy, their world falls into a black hole and then is reborn as a new galaxy that combines all of the beings from the other galaxies onto the Mario world, and that's why we have, like, Queen Bee hanging out in Mario Kart 7.
Oh, is that why? I never thought about it that deeply.
Yes, okay, well, I don't know what you're frustrated about then, man, if you're not up on the lore.
Like, yeah, no. What am I? I'm just, this is imposed.
You have such a hard stance on this.
But yeah. I don't know. I guess like I would love if this somehow took place before the main Mario games, and that made sense. I mean, I guess if this was somehow Cranky Kong or something like that, that'd be kind of cool. Although even then, there's kind of questions there because Cranky Kong, at least, is implied to have been the original Donkey Kong who kidnapped Pauline all those years ago. So, Donkey Kong, if this was Cranky Kong, young Cranky Kong, there's still like a good several years before. Yeah, exactly. So it just seems very
This is DK Jr. from DK Jr. Math. Wait, that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just. I mean,
I don't account the arcade games from the 80s as in, like, the Mario lore. I assume this is, if we have to just lump anything together, this is a precursor or a prequel to Odyssey, and it's going to explain why Pauline is the mayor of a city named New Donk City.
Yeah.
There's something there.
I wonder if they have, like, a thought through explanation.
Like a Mario Bible.
On like the New York versus New Donk kind of thing, you know what I mean? Because I remember when Odyssey came out, they kind of imply. I mean, it seemed that maybe this is now the New York that Mario was from, or something like that, or maybe not necessarily because there were still like kind of holes in that theory because the people of New Donk City look all weird and stuff.
I think we talked about this before, and it might seem strange for a video game series, but the only thing I consider to be, like, Mario canon, or maybe even, like, a singular story, is the Mario movie. Because that, like...
I was about to say...
Miyamoto was peering over everyone at Illumination's shoulders, like, making sure they got everything right. So, in that movie, when they reveal that Peach came from the human world as well, it's like, oh, that's a big reveal. That sort of implies that's the case with the games. I don't think the games follow any sort of story or storyline or any sort of connective tissue, but I assume anything that's put into the movie will eventually kind of been sired in as canon. Like Donkey Kong being Cranky Kong's, like, direct next of kin in the movie.
Yeah, I think also there was actually this kind of reminds me, I mean, I might have brought this up earlier. It's kind of interesting how Cranky Kong had an all new design in the movie, but they're using the kind of old school design for the game. Mm-hmm. Like, we'll see it later, but I'm pretty sure there's a shot of Diddy Kong in this trailer, which I was relieved to see, because I was genuinely worried that Diddy was just not going to appear in this game, like Luigi and Odyssey before the balloon shit.
I mean, that's sort of what he does, but...
he's in the game, and he looks pretty similar to how he used to, at least in the games. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting how Donkey Kong had this whole visual overhaul, but not Diddy.
Mm-hmm. These bits here, these two reactions, because I don't assume that any of this was. By the way, this feels very Breath of the Wild. This little filter here. I don't assume that anything here was made specifically for the trailer. I assume these are all, I mean, that's a very Nintendo thing, is just to get shots specifically from the game. There are these two reaction shots of them sitting on these two pillars, of her kicking and him looking disappointed, and then there's this one of him freaking out and her, like, screaming. That, I don't know if it'll per se be a rhythm section, but I feel like this is sort of like a Guitar Hero-esque thing, where if you fuck up the inputs and make the song sound bad, then the crowd and the characters react to it. I assume that's what those two reactions are, because they're in the same spot and they're back to back.
Oh, I thought maybe it might have been like a cut scene with like a boss or something.
Oh, maybe. I mean, earlier we see the elders, and this is probably the first transformation, is they're on the same pillars, and that's probably how. And we'll find out later in the direct that performing in front of the elders is how you unlock the new Donkey Kong transformations. So maybe there is a mini-game aspect to unlocking them that you can somehow mess up, because why else would they be doing these reactions without any dialogue? Like, I think these are just default if, like, I assume, I'm making a lot of assumptions here, they didn't show us, that this, however you unlock these, because it's very music-focused, I mean, there's music notes, there's different instruments, and she's singing, that it will be some kind of Donkey Kong-esque rhythm section that'll probably be pretty easy that they're reacting to. There's another bit here where they said, I think as this is happening, the scenery changes as you go, and we're seeing these wide open worlds, that probably what they were hinting at when they were first working on Bowser's Fury is, like, this area, when you're actually looking at it, I don't want to, this isn't a knock at the game, but, like, this area doesn't actually seem like that wide of an area. It seems like there's clouds all around it you could fall into. That it's probably closer to Mario Odyssey, where they're open zones, where you can walk around anywhere in the world in the level, but you can't just go from world to world. Because part of the game is digging down between levels, and that's why in one of the images, or maybe one of the hands-on experiences we were looking at, we said that the skybox looked like water, like we were beneath something, and I think we were right, that, like, the game, you do go lower and lower down.
Yeah, it takes place underground,
Yeah, and when it comes to references to the arcade game, I think it's fun that the purpose, or your accomplishment in the Donkey Kong arcade game was trying to see how high you could get, where now it's the opposite, where you're digging down to all these different levels.
But yeah, actually, I wonder how continuous the world is, because I assume you're going up and down between the levels, because, yeah, I mean, that's part of the whole thing. I wonder if they're going to try and make it so that it's seamless, or they're going to just have, like, it's probably going to be the second. They're probably just going to have you teleport or whatever, just kind of transport.
And we know,
gonna, like, load for a little bit.
That's what I was going to say, too. There's a section later. We'll cross it when we come to it.
I love the teleport. That is like, and that's one of the big reasons I feel like this is just Odyssey 2.
Yeah.
Because that is such a Nintendo thing to do. You know what I mean?
I've been playing DK64, like, before this, as of late. I don't know if you've ever played that game or played it recently. But in that game, I always do a bit about it because it's so clunky and it's not even a pun. Like, when you're talking, it's one of those mechanics, like the hip stomp versus the ground pound, where it's more of, like, word of mouth. Like, whatever people call it is what the maneuver is, because you never really read the dialogue and see what the characters call things. The panels, what do you think the panels that you teleport on in Donkey Kong 64, what do you think those are called?
I have no idea.
Okay, they call them, you can use them to banana port. See, that's not a pun at all. It sounds so clunky to
like
say.
some bullshit.
Teleport is way better. But I do want to say that these are
cute and funny.
I changed the layout of the screen just so we could see it, that these are all different levels of in-game footage, and we're going to hear about a lot of collectibles later. The health, the items you have over here, and then you have the Banandium gems, the Banandium chips, and the gold. But between levels, these change. The fossil changes, and the fossil is another thing we'll hear more about later in the direct. And this is something we talked about when we were going over the treehouse footage not too long ago. It makes sense, like, okay, depending on what level you're in, maybe just the icon of the fossil changes. But then you have a level like this where there are multiple different counters for fossils, and these 3 are all very clearly fossils, and this is the level we saw in the treehouse.
And they also don't show up only if you have fossils in your inventory, because they're showing that you have 0.
Yeah, and then this one here, these could still be fossils, but these look more like... I think these are fossils. I think that's what I'm landing on.
That first fossil looks like Manny from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Wow. A hate symbol. And then this
I literally saw that and just kind of made that connection. It looks like Manny.
Instantly clocked it. It's being used as a hate symbol online. And then this is the pig from the save, the checkpoint in Country Returns. Something like that. Like, I think these are still fossils.
Okay, so they're actually meant to look like things. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that wasn't an accident. They're meant to look like guys, yeah. But it's interesting that they change between levels and they don't really talk about it. We have to assume then that they're probably just more fossils, but it's interesting that they change like that. And now we're getting into the mechanics aspect. And do you have anything to say specifically about these mechanics when it comes to digging down or throwing hard stuff, like the actual gameplay loop of this game?
Yeah, I think it looks really fun. I guess, as I said, you know, I'm a little bit tepid on the idea of a game with destructible environments being a main factor, because I guess old school platforming where you really have to make do with the environment you're given is really fun for me. It's going to be a little bit different with this, though I assume there might still be some non-destructible terrain. I think the kind of challenges you'll face in this game are going to be unique, and often there's probably going to be a lot of problem solving with the destructible environment, but it might not be something that I personally find super satisfying, though I could be wrong. I mean, it still looks like a lot of fun. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with it.
I was worried, I'm just not... because, you know, when it comes to a game like this, I mean, I love collecting everything. And I thought it was going to... either I would have to look it up or it'd be really monotonous to, like... Because some of them you have to dig down at random places to find them. But there are mechanics they introduce later that probably make that a lot easier to find them.
The sonar seems like it's going to help.
Yeah.
I guess a good way of putting it is that, you know, when we saw the treehouse footage, it seemed that a good amount of the bananas were just kind of underground hidden. Yeah. Which honestly, thematically, makes a lot of sense for the game, since Donkey Kong is working with a mining company and stuff like that.
We're digging straight down to different worlds.
But I wonder how many golden bananas there are that kind of involve, you know, solving like a platforming challenge or solving a puzzle or whatever. There's probably still going to be a few, especially because we saw those.
They showed
those
like
later. Challenge areas and stuff.
This is interesting too. I don't know if these are the parts of the game that I'm very much like, oh, this is DK64, because again, I've been replaying Donkey Kong 64 and I don't love that game. I mean, I love the game. I don't think it's a good game. It has an issue that people accuse other... I think that is the collectathon of collectathons. That every time I play, they introduce a new collectible. And before we saw the gold, the Banandium coins, the Banandium gems, the fossils. And in this screen grab specifically, there's this counter over here of these blue guys with the eyes on them that sort of look like the ones we attacked earlier that are like the arrows that you just run into. And maybe this is just an individual Banandium mission. Maybe this isn't its own collectible. I mean, if it's on the left side, I have to assume. But I saw this screen, and it somehow isn't too invasive in the UI, and I was like, oh god, there's another collectible.
Yeah.
Going through this.
What are the things in the top left? There's the hearts and there's the balloons, but what's the other stuff? Do we know?
I don't actually know, but I know...
I think they might have said it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, we know we can purchase them. They show that later. I assume it has something to do with lives, because... Well, this emblem on this bag is shaped like the hearts are, so maybe it's like a fairy like Zelda, where like you just have an additional heart if you lose them. Again, a lot of this, well, the main, like you look at a 3D platformer like this and you're like, oh, this is immediately Mario Odyssey, but there's a lot of stuff in this game that seems like the developers also saw Breath of the Wild, or maybe even so, there were developers that worked on Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom that were then levied onto this project, and they're like, hey, what if we had this? So the balloons are obviously additional lives, and I don't know how I feel about that either. Once I have my hands on the game, it might feel a little different, but what I liked so much about Mario Odyssey is that there was very little risk when it came to platforming, so you could try a lot of interesting maneuvers and difficult and even dangerous maneuvers, because if you died, all you would lose were coins. Whereas this game seems it might have traditional game overs, maybe. And maybe, honestly, that's what the Pauline reaction we saw earlier was, of her, like, screaming like this. Maybe this is a game over of sorts. But we don't know where that stands. Also, when it comes to... Oh, how do you feel about this, also? Being able to build a bridge like that? And this game has a lot of fun mechanics in it. This is the guy
it's probably going to be cool.
The blue with eyes.
I guess, yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. I don't really feel that strongly about it, though.
It's another thing, like when we were talking about Mario Kart, we had so much to say about, like, oh, what's it like driving between courses in Mario Kart? Do we like it? Do we not like it? Where once your hands are on the game, it's not that much of an issue or even that different, like, once you're actually playing it. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we're just looking at the footage now. Speaking of just looking at the footage and watching the direct, these are the gates you have to open to go through the levels and go farther down the levels. But here they specifically point it out in a very specific or suspicious manner, where they say these gems that someone left behind. Which could be two things. Either could be a hint at a very specific thing that people have been speculating on that we'll get into later, or it was just foreshadowing for later in the direct. Who knows? It could be anything. There's also a lot of, I don't know if they were talking to the characters yet. I think he's about to talk to the characters. This just looks really fun. I think once I get my hands on it, I'll feel entirely different. But we do have little mechanics here. These characters, the ones you talk to, they have Odyssey and Rareware-esque gibberish.
Yeah, I love the sound. It sounded so cute.
Right, but we see later there's a scene where Pauline is, like, voice acted. Like, she's...
Yeah,
I think for the first time in any of these games where, like, a Mario character is actually saying words. So I think that is probably just reserved solely for the
NPCs.
Or no, not the NPCs, but like the cutscenes. Like I think these guys are saying gibberish because it's in game. Yeah. I think voice acting is reserved for the cutscenes. Yeah, this is the thing I saw that looked like the counter earlier. And we do have there's Cranky and Rambi. I don't know if we've seen Rambi yet, so that might also be a reveal.
I think it might have been in the treehouse.
Potentially. I mean, we only saw that one level. These are the giant elders they were referring to. And we see three of them, the bird, the ape, and the zebra. And we saw them in the background. These are the transformations we were talking about. I mean, the first transformation is how the Odd Rock becomes Smalline. And here's where she screams DK. You can still, it voiced perfectly. You can see the lips move. I can read lips perfectly. These are the different transformations. That might be an original song as well to this game. But this seems to be the thing that I was specifically talking about that's very Breath of the Wild, especially with you're kind of covering it, but let me see if I could scroll maybe. That this counter down here is very much like...
Sorry, I'll scooch over.
Yeah. You can cycle through these transformations. The protections, the little... I forget what they're called, but the orbs you get in Breath of the Wild, like Daruk's protection and all that you can cycle through.
I know. That's what it reminds me of, too. I wonder, do you think there's going to be more than just those three?
I don't think so. Because they're specifically down here, I think it's going to be like Pokemon Legends Arceus, where you just cycle through them and they help you traverse. But I don't think this is a situation where they only show some of the Elders and there's going to be secret ones later. I think those are all of them.
I think I in some ways I'm a little pessimistic about Nintendo with certain things nowadays. That's one thing that I kind of am. I feel like they're not nowadays. They wouldn't have like an extra kind of bonanza mode that they kind of keep hidden. I think that's just not a thing they do. The kind of thing they do anymore.
Twitch chat says there's got to be a crocodile bonanza transformation. Well, it's funny you say that. Well, don't worry.
That's a good point.
But also we're talking about other Nintendo games. It's modeled after Breath of the Wild or Odyssey or something like that. This bar specifically feels kind of like ARMS, maybe? Like, the fact that it's just a yellow bar. There's a lot of stuff in this game that doesn't, like, on paper, doesn't seem to match, but it's going to be one of those things that you don't even notice it. Like, when you think about Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild, you think about the little green stamina wheel. You don't think about just a yellow bar like this. And when we're looking at footage, it seems weird, but when you're playing it, it's probably just going to blend into the background entirely.
You could be the white Angry Bird in this game.
Whoa. I mean, you could make it a banana, but I think it's fine the way it is. Or unless you have very strong feelings about that yellow meter. That's where you get your Bananergy. From the gold, I think. Yeah. But you could also use gold to... I think any collectibles you get will fill up your meter. But you can get more. It's not the case where you get gold and then it only goes towards your meter. You also get gold as a collectible that you could use for later. But I'm pretty sure, I mean, they're gonna go over it now. All the different collectibles you can get. I think they were just going over it, actually. Or maybe it's later. We'll circle back to these guys in a second. Is it here when they're going over it? The golden bananas? Yeah, the Banandium gems. These are the main... I mean, these are the Odyssey moons. These are the main collectibles you get throughout the game. And this is sort of... I mean, it's... I compared it earlier, like, oh, from a Mario standpoint, it's sort of like Luigi's Mansion. And when Luigi's Mansion came out, they very quickly turned around Mario Sunshine because, you know, people wanted a 3D Mario. And because of that, Mario Sunshine was very rushed, and there's a lot of issues with it. These combat sections seem very like Donkey Kong 64, and then you have sections like this. These are individual teleportation segments, and I guess you could also make that something, you could compare it to Mario Sunshine, but I think it's more like Mario Odyssey, those levels where you would throw your hat onto one of the mannequins and then teleport to a platforming section. There are these individual bits where you can get the Banandium gems. Some are solving puzzles, and then this next one is interesting, that they just straight up have 2D levels. Like, it seems a lot more than just a segment. These seems like... The team is very clearly, despite it sort of being either Retro Studios or Rareware, like, it was never really in-house Nintendo. I mean, even just this is the blue and pink, the bisexual lighting I was referring to. It's because it's a reference to the girders from the original Donkey Kong arcade game. That this does seem like a love letter to all of the Donkey Kong games. This specifically, that bit right there is so... Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, the laser sights, so many times over. There's a lot to that. And there's also, and then I didn't think it could get any crazier. These are the, also this is Wrecking Crew. Everything. They wanted, I think, because I thought going into this, I did say earlier, like, oh, this is going to be the equivalent of the 3D Mario game. It's going to be like DK64, where it's just a 3D platformer, but it is Donkey Kong. Where it seems like, although this is very Odyssey, they want Donkey Kong games moving forward to be their own thing, like their own genre. It's not a Zelda game, it's not a Mario game, it's a Donkey Kong game. When you think Donkey Kong games, you think of this. And that's why there's so many different collectibles and different mechanics. And this is the thing that shocked me the most, the RPG skill tree in this game.
Yeah.
That you could unlock different abilities. And this is what I was talking about, like being able to, you said it earlier, the sonar, and being able to see where the bananas are on the map. I think this will help a lot. I'm just going to be running through the levels, like how I was playing Doom the Dark Ages, where I was checking my map every couple steps, where I'm just going to be slapping the floor the entire time. I love collecting everything in a game. And I hope at the very least it's easier, or at least less annoying than it is in Donkey Kong 64, which I have to assume it is.
Yeah, probably.
We saw the Banandium gems, but these are Banandium chips. And again, like Mario Sunshine, or I guess, again, like Mario Odyssey, where you can use the purple coins to buy moons, you can use the Banandium chips to buy Banandium gems, but the gold you use to buy the gold you use to buy items.
The rock balloon so much.
It's actually going to give descriptions of what the other top left items were. Pressed from giant apples automatically restores
you were
all
right,
health.
Dude.
Okay. I mean, that's what it looked like, but what does the can do? Activate Bonanza without full Bananergy meter. Consumes 1 can per transformation. So I wonder if these are used automatically, or if you have to, like, select them somehow, or if there's a certain button. And these
the apple juice definitely isn't.
The fossils, when you... It's... I assume that these are all fossils. Oh, it says Leaf 2 of 61. So maybe all three of these are fossils, but in this specific level, there's 3 different types of fossils. Because as you're walking to the close, before that little cutscene or that little interaction starts, you can see that now there's 2 by the... I forget what it's called. The Pokemon. The Kabuto-esque thing. And this is where you get your different gear, your fashion.
Is that Trilobite? Or I think that might be something else.
Troglodyte? Something like that.
No, Trilobite.
You can customize your Donkey Kong and your Smalline. This is, again, very Odyssey. But I like that you could choose different colors of DK as well.
It's like a Smash Bros. Character.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have a specific Donkey Kong color that you feel the most accustomed to?
Natural, normal color.
Ooh,
I've never really...
You play the brown.
Honestly,
DK.
I've never really liked playing Smash Bros. Alternate costumes if it changes the hair or the skin color. It makes me sound like a racist. But like, I like imagining. I like it when the characters only change their clothes, if that makes sense. It kind of, it kind of makes it a little bit more fun to think of it as, I don't know. It just, it feels more possible to me. If that makes sense, it kind of
feels realistic.
A little bit more.
Man, you really care about the lore implications of all these Nintendo games.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember in Smash 4, they had all of Shulk's alternate costumes. He basically had the same skin and hair color, just different costumes, kind of inspired from other characters in the game. And then Smash Ultimate, he had a lot of the same clothes, but also his hair color was adjusted to match the characters they were based off of.
Yeah.
Which I guess in some ways is cool because there's a little bit more visual clarity. Right. But I liked imagining Shulk just wearing those other clothes, especially because you can wear different like alternate colors of a lot of the same basic armor in the game.
When you play Smash Bros, do you play the Xenoblades and the Fire Emblems and like the Zeldas and I guess the Metroids as well? Are those like your main characters?
Well, my main character is Ness, and actually, I don't think Ness changes his hair color or his skin color that much. It's usually just different outfits. But I never pick that like black and purple one just because everyone picks it.
Oh, I do love that one. But I'm more partial to these because I tend to pick the Scrimblow Bimblows. Like, I want Sonic to have a pink alt or a green alt. I want him to go all out. When I play Donkey Kong, I choose a specific color. When I play Banjo, I make him the Gruntilda colors. Whenever I play it online, I say I'm serving Grunt. But...
Oh, I never played the Gruntilda colors. I just don't like thinking about it though. I like the
I don't like her. Actually, I don't support that.
Yeah. Keep that
it's kind of problematic that you're representing Gruntilda after everything she did.
I remember I was checking out when Banjo first came out. I was checking out the alternate costumes, and I was like, well, I am not using the Gruntilda one.
No, that's the one I use. And then this, I was like, okay, they got pink, they got green. They also say at this point that there are the clothing changes the stats of different mechanics in the game. The swimming breeches increase your swimming speed, so you can customize your Donkey Kong. And I wasn't looking that closely, but I'm glad that the color is completely separate, so you can just choose whatever color Donkey Kong you want. Unless you really want to water build and have your blue. This is when I freaked out, because Yeti DK has been the Donkey Kong I play since Brawl. They've kept that white skin, and as soon as I saw this...
I remember as a kid, one of my friends told me that Yeti DK was stronger than the other ones, and I kind of almost
He's right.
him.
When it's in my hands, it is. And he does a little spin. I never noticed she was wearing her, like, fucking pampered royal costume here either.
It's like a Shakespeare ass out.
But there's this, there's Princess Peach's Showtime, even, like... Samus having a bunch of different designs in new Metroid games. That I feel that costumes, like actual physical costumes, what you're talking about, like the characters wearing different clothes, and even like Mario Kart World, they're all changing costumes. I feel like that has to be a bigger part of the next Smash Bros. It has to be. They can't just be alternate colors. Not when everyone has customizable gear right now.
And they've already kind of started moving towards that, because there's a Mario Maker Mario costume in Ultimate, right? Yeah, so, I mean,
and the wedding costume, but those are the only ones. This is another saving grace for me, is the Mario Odyssey-esque map that shows up here, and when you go through this is also, there's different layers, like there's a little layer counter here, again, like Tears of the Kingdom, and they have 3 different types of fossils, so I think that's what we were seeing earlier. And this is what I was talking about, more like Mario Odyssey, where you could see the list of everything in each world. Some people find these a little too much. I love these. Give me a checklist in a video game, and I will play that video game for days, for hours, you know? Just give me a list of things I need to find. So I'm glad that there's the sonar, and I'm glad they have the list. On top of that, this zoomed-in version of the 3D model of the map. It's looking rather crocodilian, is it not? This setup looks a little crocodilian in nature, doesn't it? This looks like eyes, looks like a top mouth, bottom mouth. Just worth pointing out, I think. And then there's a lot of... They're trying a lot of different things, I think mainly to stand out from 3D Mario. Although, again, I think that's where the main people working on this game are going to be. Sorry, did that say that cost gold to do?
Oh.
No, go ahead.
I honestly don't like the stat changes that much, all things considered.
Oh, like the RPG skill tree, or like the clothing changing your stats?
The art, both.
Okay.
Like I'm like a little bit about it. I don't know. I think there's something kind of there's a very there's a maybe not simplicity. There's something very straightforward about the gameplay in Mario Odyssey and a lot of games where there's no speed stat. There's nothing kind of like that I really like, and kind of, you know, adding these extra multipliers can sometimes make it more complicated than I'd like it to be.
It would make replaying it unfun. Like, I think on the first time around, the skill tree is going to be really fun to, like, create your loadout. But if you ever want to restart the game, and again, this has been happening when I've been playing Donkey Kong 64, is you need to slowly unlock all your abilities. Then when you're playing the game from the beginning, it's like, oh god, I have to learn how to do it. No, wait, I've been playing Pokemon Violet because I don't have the Violet box legendary.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I'm constantly trying to, like, climb mountains, and I'm like, oh right, I can't do that yet. I have to unlock the flying ability. And I'm constantly, like, turning myself around. That it's fun as you're playing, but you're right. When you play Mario Odyssey, all the cool shit you can do as Mario, you can do from the jump. As soon as you have Cappy, you can do anything there. So I can as long as Donkey Kong still controls fun before that, I think I'm okay. Also, I didn't catch this, and they don't say it in the direct, but you use gold to get a little camp set up.
It's fucking Paper Mario NPC.
The Architectone. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say it like that. But Architectone. You could set up these little side camps, and you could also pick the music. And this is now another collectible that you can get throughout the game. Is it's actually taking code from Sonic Frontiers, if you think about it. Being able to collect different tracks throughout the game. And I will say, on top of the songs Pauline has been singing throughout this direct, which I think we're at 3 right now, we haven't heard a lot of new tracks. Like with Odyssey, there were some tracks that sounded exactly like Galaxy tracks, but there was a fully new soundtrack. And I'm not saying this game doesn't have a new soundtrack, but if we're listening to the direct, it's playing like Bramble Blast or the Donkey Kong Country Returns theme. And then here they do a bit where it's not even the same song you collect, but when they collect this in the direct, it starts playing the DK rap. I think maybe a new mix of the DK rap. It's probably still the same audio recorded from like Grant Kirkhope and all those guys. But I hope that this game has its own individual score. I mean, I obviously like when Mario Kart and Smash Ultimate have what would you call that? Not re-instrumentals, reproductions of older songs? Like
remixes?
Yeah, sort of remixes of older songs. But this seems
new renditions?
Yeah, new renditions. But these
arrangements,
just seems,
I guess?
Yeah, new arrangements, that's what it is. Thank you. That these just seem like older tracks. And maybe that's just for the direct. But we see the layers here and being able to teleport. Or, sorry, teleport. There we go, teleport. That's where it showed off. It's going to be a while before I lose Banana Port, because that is still stuck on my... I'll never forget about Banana Port, because it's such an awful way of saying that. It's not a pun at all. But I love the yellow DK. Also, you know, Nintendo's favorite thing is photo mode. Do you like photo modes in games? I don't dislike them. Let me ask you this. Have you had any issue with the photo mode in Mario Kart, like accidentally selecting it? Because I've been doing that a lot.
No, not at all. I haven't even used the photo mode in Mario Kart World.
Well, I'm not trying to use it, but it's tied to the minus button, which in every other game is the map button.
Oh, yeah, maybe I have. I don't know, because I kind of get, like, taken aback by the Y button being the map button.
Yeah. It makes sense, but it's also like this, we see it through the cracks. But this costume looks very not this one. This costume looks very Mario. Maybe just because the polka dots look like the buttons. We also see a cotton candy DK here. But yeah, continue what you were about to say.
I guess I was gonna. What was I? Oh yeah, I remember when Mario Kart 8 came out, I really liked using the replay mode and kind of getting cool images from that and stuff like that.
I don't mind photo mode, just specifically in Mario Kart World, because I was also playing at the same time Pokemon Violet and Tears of the Kingdom, which both have minus being the map button.
When you're playing like 2 games at once and they have completely different places to open a map, it really gets annoying.
I do love that on every game with a horse, it's always down on the or up on the D-pad, one of those to always call your horse. That's the one thing that's universal across horse games for some reason. This is a big deal too, of having multiplayer with Smalline, my mistake. This is, your...
I love that toothy ass smile, by the way.
Your Fury, your Bowser's Fury, and your Odyssey, where the second player mode, and even like Galaxy as well, that are mostly predominantly single player campaigns, that the second player mode that you may or may not use a mouse to control, I'm covering the mouse right now, is just, shooting your reticle at shit. That you could control, I mean, you could destroy the ground, but this isn't a game that I would be like, oh, let's play together. Although...
Dude, I'd be down for a stream of that. I'd be down to be Smalline.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. I was gonna say, because like on the channel back in the day, I played Mario Odyssey with Ryu and Ranch. So maybe one of them's gonna have a Switch to at some point. I think I misunderstood what they were saying in this direct because they're explaining the multiplayer aspects. This also seems kind of broken, just being able to shoot at the bosses. I think this is gonna be a speed run strat very early on. But yeah, if you don't plan on getting Bonanza day one, then yeah, this would be a good stream for us to do.
Yeah, I mean, even if I do get it, I'd be down to play. I think it's kind of fun to try
There's game share to a system without the game. This is not local game share where the Switch 2 buy you. Oh no, I did misunderstand this. That you can game share with someone on a Nintendo Switch 1. And they can play as Smalline, even though I mean it is.
I think
just
for some games they can do that, but it does seem kind of complicated because it's the way it works. I don't know. There's some games can do certain things, some games can't. I remember I was wondering if Mario Kart World has game share, and I don't think it does, but I'm not exactly sure. But well, it has. I don't think it has game share with the Nintendo Switch 1 or something like that.
I haven't done Mario Kart World online at all. Like riding around in the open world with people. I gotta try that at some point. I gotta see what people are doing Thursday, I guess. Well, we'll see what we could do. Because I also want to go back to 3D World at some point to get all the character stickers or badges. But yeah, and then we could do online or the second controlling player. It says when it's talking about game share or game share via game chat, this is the only one that we see as online. Everything else is local. I imagine you probably don't need to have the game chat present. You could just game share with other people that have the Switch 2 and online.
You play with 50% of the screen size?
I wish.
Oh, dude, look at that pause screen. What the fuck?
Well, is that the pause? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah.
I actually kind of don't like that.
I don't care about the assist. Well, how often are you going to look at that? Dude, I remember the Odyssey pause screen. The Odyssey pause screen always looked like a manual to me. Like where they just show
one where like Mario, because Mario's face
eyes
is there,
and then you see. And this is insane, by the way. This has nothing to do with Donkey Kong Bonanza at all. But this is DK Artist that exists for no reason.
I'm kind of glad they're doing this. They don't do like not stupid, but they don't do completely miscellaneous little like side game modes like the way they used to. No, they just don't do that anymore. But yeah, no, let's just.
This game is Donkey Kong 64. I'm gonna go through Donkey Kong 64.
Keep playing. I want to see the DSi parrot.
Yeah, hold on, I'll get to it. I got a bit plan. Donkey Kong 64, Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, and now it's also like Mario Artist for the Nintendo 64 disc drive that never released here. So we have iconic characters that you can model if you like Mario, Bowser, Pizza, that fucking bird that I hate. Actual art. But yeah, this is not only that's the meme everyone's been doing. Not only is it the bird from Mario Maker, but also the DSi bird. When I first saw this, because it took me a couple days to watch the direct, because I'm like, okay, I need to take notes. I need to be in a good headspace.
Okay.
I thought this was more a part of the game, but no, this is just an example of something you can build.
Yeah.
I remember one of the examples when I was working on the Fighters Pass video, the first Fighters Pass video, that one of the hints or one of the speculation points is when they were showing off the stage creator. They were just like, oh, we have to show off a bunch of stages or what you can make. And one of them was like a witch's cauldron. And people were like, oh, this is a hint towards Banjo because of Gruntilda. I don't think it was. I mean, Banjo was in the game later, so maybe. And now we have amiibo compatibility. And they're releasing... I'm glad they're still releasing amiibo for all the major Nintendo games. I don't know what the last one was. Was the last one Tears of the Kingdom? Did they have anything after that?
Dude, I don't remember, dude. I haven't bought an amiibo in so long.
Yeah, I normally don't. Maybe I'll get this one just because like I like how it looks. I know I got one for Metroid Dread, but it seemed like for a while they just stopped doing them. But it's weird that they have this for this game and not for Mario Kart World. So maybe they only do them for specific games. I don't know. But this is a new amiibo, a Switch. I mean, it's not Switch 2 exclusive or like only works on Switch 2, but it is an amiibo for this game. There are other individual, and this is how you get the Diva dress. Disc will be twice as likely to appear. Oh, I didn't know it also gives you... Oh, you know what? I might need to pay $30 for the Donkey Kong and Pauline amiibo. See, it's 30 because it's 2 characters. Something to think about. Yeah, this. They said all of the Donkey Kong amiibo are compatible with this game. And I assume that means all the ones that are not this Bonanza one and the ones you get at Nintendo World, the actual theme park, spawn, or maybe they all spawn these. Spawn the Kong letters. And you can see back there, not only is Diddy back there, but Dixie is also right next to him. Spawns these golden Kong letters that... What do they do, actually? They just destroy shit? What is the purpose of this? But I think this is sort of... Not bait, but I think they're just like, oh, we have a Diddy amiibo, let's tie it into Diddy in the game. I don't think the amiibo spawns these characters. I think this is a part of the game where Diddy and Dixie are.
Yeah, me too.
So the amiibo don't have anything to do with the game.
Show me the amiibos again.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, no, there's someone interesting in that cast. Granted, the individual character amiibos probably don't mean anything because they're just, suspicious. We have 2 Donkey Kong characters. We have their Smash amiibo. Earlier I thought like, oh, you do the Diddy amiibo when it spawns Diddy and maybe Dixie, but it seems like that's not the case. All of them just spawn the letters, and this one gives you a special costume. But there is something mighty interesting here we're talking about. Also, I mean, after this bit, it also says that this is one of those, Chibi Robo mentioned, one of those Nintendo decisions where it's like, well, we just have to make the amiibo compatible, so they just spawn bullshit in the game. Like, any amiibo you put into the game spawns a big orb you can throw around. This bit at the end here, maybe it already happened, this falling bit, because this is a cutscene, but there was one bit earlier where you're like falling between levels, and I wanted to see, it seems like the clouds are the loading zones, something like Area Zero in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but I assumed immediately initially maybe it's something akin to the Ratchet and Clank game that was on the PS5 that had seamless load screens, like there was no loading time whatsoever. You just fall into a portal. When I played it on Steam, it did not work at all, but it was like a sort of a PS5 tech demo-esque game where when you fall between levels, they just kind of instantly load. I don't know how true that is. I think the game will probably just have traditional loading screens, but it'd be cool if it was entirely seamless. This is a cutscene because Smalline is talking. And then at this point in the Direct, we can't hear it because we're just going through the footage. It's playing another song. I think, if I'm counting correctly, the 3rd or 4th song with lyrics. And I say with lyrics specifically because it's singing along the original Donkey Kong arcade theme. So this is basically if somebody made a what if Donkey Kong the arcade game had lyrics. And that's what she's singing. They finally hired that man. Yeah, this is a cutscene, so this is a bad example, but like phasing between them. Where she's singing like, oh, Donkey Kong, da Donkey Kong, something like, along with the Donkey Kong lyrics. We'll circle back to the Void Gang in a second. But something worth discussing, I mean, we'll just circle back here, because now we have a release date, Bisexual Lighting. I mean, we had a release date. We got the date of the Direct. Something I want to talk about, that it seems like there are a lot of actual original songs by Smalline here. that we do not know who's directing this game, which team is developing this game, so on and so forth. There were a lot of voice actors that got replaced in Mario Kart World. I think you talked about this before. And Mario, we already knew about, got recast as Kevin Afghani. And then there were, like, maybe Toad and Peach voice actors that got recast. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, the voice actors for Toad and Peach got replaced.
However, Kate Higgins, who plays Pauline in the American dubs of these games, was still credited as the voice of Pauline in Mario Kart World. And I imagine the voice lines are original. Smalline sounds different, but, you know, she's a voice actress, so maybe it's just a, it's a younger character. Younger. We do not know who Smalline is voiced by in this game.
Oh, it's just so we don't know the voice actor yet. Okay.
No, we don't know anything. That's what I'm saying, is that, like, the developers, the director, we don't find that out until the game comes out and we read the credits. It's the same thing with Mario Kart World. But there seem to be multiple sung songs in this game with lyrics, and she did sing the version of Jump Up Superstar that is in Odyssey. So maybe they recast her. That's a possibility. There's nothing confirming this is Kate Higgins, but it might be. So maybe there are multiple songs by her in this game. Sorry, somebody in the Twitch chat says, been hearing that Mori Calliope from Hololive is involved in this game. I did hear that, or I saw posts about it, but I didn't know what it meant. Is that she had been saying for a long time that she was, like, working on an important partnership but couldn't say what it is yet. So maybe it isn't Kate Higgins. Maybe there are different artists singing, because I know in the Japanese dub for Smash Ultimate, I keep saying dub, I mean the Japanese translation, or the Japanese game of Smash Ultimate, that the kid who sang the Lifelight theme was also the kid who, like, sang a Kingdom Hearts theme or something, like it was the same girl. So maybe, I didn't even notice this either. This Racing Rambi minigame, again, very DK64, where you are racing against Diddy and Dixie. Let's see if we can get a better look at their eyes, because that's the main character change between these new designs, are the eyes. I mean, they're connected. You can't really see the little skin flap there. Does Dixie look different?
Not particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a much lighter kind of character change than...
Yeah. And they're together. They're paired together again. You know, they got the DK barrels. But what I was getting is that there's a possibility that maybe Kate Higgins isn't the voice of Smalline. Maybe the singing in this game is someone entirely different, or different artists. We don't know. I just thought it was worth bringing up that she came back for Mario Kart World, even though some voice actresses and voice actors didn't. What do you think? You think she might come back?
I think she probably will come back, and I think one reason why is that I don't think she's been Pauline for very long. Well, actually, who did Pauline have voice lines in, like, some of the, like, I don't know, like DS Mario versus Donkey Kong games?
Game Boy game she did, and it was, like, really crunchy audio. But yeah. I would assume that as soon as Pauline, because I forget that Pauline it was like a big deal that she was in Odyssey. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because now we're so used to her. But no, I think she was probably recast for Odyssey. They got someone with, like, a singing voice. Because that's Pauline's gimmick now, is she's the singer. Where that never used to be her thing. I don't know what her thing was.
She's, looks like she's only been voiced by Kate Higgins, but she only seems to have gotten a voice she only started being voiced in Super Mario Odyssey.
Okay.
So it's not like this is an actor that they've had for a long time that they, I guess, want to retire or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But if this game is meant to tie into Odyssey, it would make more sense to have that voice. I guess, again, I wouldn't be too miffed if they went with different artists to do the voices. This is more from a speculation standpoint of whether or not we think it is her. I don't feel any strong feelings. I mean, obviously I have nostalgia for Mario Odyssey, and I want voice actors to keep getting work, but if they recast Smalline, or just have her be voiced by, I guess, more of a kid than an adult woman, I'm not going to throw a tantrum about it on the internet.
I might. Not really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you already are. You know, this young Pauline doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're right. I am throwing
a letter to Nintendo and tell them that the timeline doesn't make sense. Well, since we're already here and talking about tangents and arguments and speculation and specific letters to Nintendo, we have been, in the context of Donkey Kong Bonanza, there has been one concurrent speculation point with this game. And it hasn't been the gameplay, it hasn't been the voice actor, it hasn't been the characters, it hasn't been any of the returning amiibo. What it has been is something interesting with this Void Gang here. And I have been keeping tabs on what we called schizo posting when it comes to King K. Rool. I have been following people online that and I try to get all my speculation points together. So today we're going to set up, I don't know, editor, put the little Phoenix Wright argument. We're in court right now. You don't have to do a whole animation, but like a transition or something. I will be arguing on behalf of King K. Rool being a secret character, a secret reveal in this game, and my co-parent here, Switchy, will be arguing against King K. Rool in this game. I have levied a bunch of evidence, so I know I specifically set this up so that you had no time to prepare. So the
Void
you
told me 5 seconds.
Right. Well, I mean, behind the curtain, real quick, it's quite easy to dismantle these arguments. You could just be like, "Well, that doesn't." Oh, really? Mean... Well, they could just mean nothing.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
The Void Company, which we see are pictured here, are 3 characters, which is Grumpy Kong, Poppy Kong, and Void Kong. Now, the choice of the term Void is very interesting. We have Grumpy Kong here, like I said, which these names tie into their characters. Grumpy Kong is angry. Poppy Kong likes
Poppy,
likes juice, soda, and singing, maybe. What do we have here? All right, we're starting a new speculation sphere. I found this image from forever ago. Back in like the 2010s, early 2010s, before Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze came out, there were theories about maybe we're going to see that. We've been speculating this. People have been fighting on the front lines of returning King K. Rool. And the reason I'm so vehement about K. Rool being in this game is because I specifically, back in 2018, after Smash Ultimate was announced, but before the August Direct, I was famously in the r/Smash Bros subreddit saying that K. Rool was not going to be in that game because they wouldn't use an old character, they would use a new character like that of the Retro Studios character. So now I feel like in recompense that the pendulum swings the other way, that this speculation has started up yet again. The choice of the name Void for the Void Company. First off, where's the official listing on the website? Is it, not there, hold on. Yeah, the Void Company. The Planet Core is said to have the power to grant any desire and Void Kong. The ruthless head of the greedy Void Company, interesting, will stop at nothing to reach it and claim all the world's riches for himself. Smash your way to the Planet Core before the greedy Void Company gets to it first. So, the context of this game are gems, are gold, are mining, and that's why we have Grumpy Kong and Poppy Kong, who are tied to, like, the mining industry. And Void Kong is, of course, going after gold. It just so happens that the gold is shaped like bananas. Ooh, but what if this is a character we've seen before? What if Void Kong is actually in disguise? And all the world's riches actually refers to DK's banana hoard. What if this is a recontextualization of the earlier games, as the bananas weren't just bananas, but were instead golden, emeralds, gems, riches? What then, Switchy?
Well, that means, I don't know, really, like, if the bananas have always been just gems, it would make the the motivations of previous Donkey Kong villains a little bit more understandable. That's one thing I'd say.
You can't agree with me. You can. What I would say.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. What I would say is that we just talked earlier about trying to soft retcon the Mario universe and trying to retell the story or start over the story of Donkey Kong. And if that's the case, if this is the Mario Donkey Kong instead of the DK Country Donkey Kong, why would they care about the past Donkey Kong Country games? If I were you. That would be my argument, of course, hypothetically.
Oh, okay. So why would they care about the past Donkey Kong Country games if they seem to be doing kind of a departure from, like, I guess, the old school kind of Mario and Donkey Kong continuity, if you can even call it that?
Well, if you look at the name Void Kong, right? Grumpy Kong begets anger. Poppy Kong, we went over that. We don't need to cover that, of course. I made a very good point. Void Kong, if you look into the definition of what void means, there are multiple not valid, completely empty space. Something that is, let's focus on this. Let's just ignore all the other definitions and focus on not valid. Now, we're all, of course, in agreement here that Donkey Kong Bonanza is, of course, heavily based on the ancient story Journey to the West. And if we're already focusing on that, there is a character on the Villains Wiki, the Evil Doer, the six-eared macaque, the fake Sun Wukong. The six-eared macaque, also known as the fake Sun Wukong, which, as we know, Donkey Kong Bonanza is based on, is a major antagonist in the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West, and its multiple adaptations. As his name suggested, he is a macaque with 6 ears that is as powerful as Sun Wukong himself, and impersonates Wukong with the intention of go to the West and receive all scriptures and the Buddhahood himself. So obviously Void Kong, I mean, void means not valid. This Void Kong is, of course, based off of the 6-eared macaque. Look how many ears this guy has. This is Void Kong. This is evil Sun Wukong. You have the floor. I can see.
I'm counting 2 ears. However, can you go back to the fake Sun Wukong?
Yeah.
Can you click him real quick?
Yeah. So they look quite similar, actually.
There actually, I would say there is a.
Yeah, they look exactly the same.
I mean, I don't think it's. I don't think it's actually a very overt. Yeah, I don't think it's uncanny. I would say it's not uncanny.
It's quite canny.
It's quite canny. It's quite canny. I'm quite plussed by it.
You don't think so? But you agree, of course, that Donkey Kong Bonanza is heavily based off Journey to the West, of course, heavily inspired. Because as we know, Super Mario Odyssey is heavily based off of the Odyssey. Everyone knows this.
Did we talk about like it being based on Journey to the West?
Maybe
in like a previous episode.
We didn't take it very seriously because it doesn't make sense.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot because there actually are games out there that seem to have a genuine,
Black Myth Wukong for sure, San.
Yeah. Okay, so we were joking, but I was trying to remember, like, wait, did we actually come to a conclusion that there?
I'm straw manning here. I'm arguing on the behalf of the internet that. But if I were in your shoes, I would say that. What do you mean it's based off Journey to the West, and what do you mean Super Mario Odyssey is based off of the Odyssey?
Well, yeah, that I know for a fact is just bullshit. But frankly, like when you said that, I mean, I'm the kind of person that when you say shit like that, I just assume that you know something I don't, and I just kind of take it as true.
No, I'm being very bashful, or the opposite, and I'm being very brash, and just saying things as if they are true.
I definitely don't think it's very thoroughly based on Journey to the West. If I mean, for one reason,
is that what he looks like.
I mean, maybe there's like a Sun Wukong connection, but even then, I'm not very convinced. Especially because, there's no pigs in this game that we know of. Sure. I'm pretty sure there are like other animal creatures in kind of Journey to the West that aren't present here. If they were present here, I'd kind of take the Journey to the West connection more, I guess.
Seriously, of course.
Seriously.
Right. Because it is a serious matter, as we all know.
It is a serious matter.
If K. Rool isn't in this game, we're gonna have this has serious implications for Nintendo moving forward. And that's a problem. So if we'll focus for a second, if the jury will direct their attention to the different DK transformations, you see this sharp red, piercing red color in his eye? Not his eyelid, but like the whites of his eyes have become red. I guess the inside of his eyelids. And the different transformations all have different colors. The Kong Bonanza has red around the eyes, implying that this transformation is different from Donkey Kong. The zebra one has light blue on the eyes. And if we can go over to the ostrich, maybe? I think it's right after. The zebra Bonanza. The Kong Bonanza is just another ape, so I guess all apes in this are Kongs. That this has purple eyes beneath the eyelids. And Twitter artist Porky Draws discussed this in this one post here, that you see not only that these 3 transformations. Can I actually open this image into? Maybe I already did. I thought ahead of time that these little eye bags, I guess, are different colors to imply this is a transformation. And you'll see here that on the Void Kong, they're also sort of a fleshy pink, which means that they must be a transformation. Also, the eyes have red veins through them, which is exclusive to famous Donkey Kong character King K. Rool. Now, what's your argument against that, of course?
Let me see the other Kongs. Like the other Void Company characters.
It was not that one. Here we go. Yeah.
Okay, there's a picture of all 3 of them together in one of the cutscenes.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Of course, yeah, the evidence. Yes. I think we... Oh, out of there for a second. There's Void Kong.
Okay, she doesn't have anything around her eyes. Let's see.
Grumpy Kong. Oh,
Grumpy Kong.
His eyes have turned into bananas. Okay, she's doing her voice acting bit again. Hold on. I think they did introduce them. Yeah, Poppy
so
Kong
Grumpy Kong has like, I forget what they're called. They're like, he has like the football player thing. It's purple. But actually, go back to the Bonanza transformations.
Okay.
Like the picture of the color eyes.
Oh,
Sorry,
right.
I'm not being. Okay, I'm seeing the red one. Donkey Kong in the Kong form has red. The ostrich looks like it has kind of a purple or a pinkish kind of eye color. Which makes me think that. I'm actually kind of curious if those colors mean anything in comparison to the Bonanza stuff. I'm thinking no. I mean,
they sort of have light undertones, like the light refracting off is their color. Like the blue, the red, the purple. I would say.
Well, actually, one thing is that this might Void Kong might just be based on a type of monkey with those kinds of eyes. I know rhesus monkeys kind of have like reddish kind of exteriors around their eyes.
Curse you.
Or I'm not super convinced that's just a transformation.
Yeah, it also just kind of looks like flesh eyes, color.
Yeah. Well, the veiny eyes though. That probably doesn't mean much. Could be
a reference to Castlevania, the Bloody Tears.
Yeah.
We have this is the main person I've been following that's been posting about on the K. Rool train. Maybe we should have him on at some point. That the bit here we saw Void Kong, the yellow teeth that are all sharp like crowns. He has a literal golden crown, like that of K. Rool. Sorry, trigger warning for teeth. But look at K. Rool's crown. It's also a golden crown. How many other characters do you know that have a golden crown? Name
Peach.
One. Oh, name 2.
Does Bowser have a crown? No, Bowser doesn't have a crown. Daisy has a crown.
Fuck. Okay.
Zelda. Well, Zelda sometimes has like kind of a royal headdress, but she doesn't usually have like a full-on crown. Damn.
I think I've been foiled
again. I think I'm just kind of stupid. Also, the teeth themselves, I don't really know how indicative. I mean, I think it's definitely interesting that they're a gold color, but that's probably just because there's a lot of gold collecting in this game. There's
it could just be because the character, wants all of the riches and wants to collect gold.
Yeah, and also the shape of the teeth doesn't really push me in either direction, especially because monkeys have pretty sharp teeth, sharper than people realize. And actually, you can kind of pull it up if you want, editor, or don't. I don't really. Like rhesus monkeys have like really sharp fang stuff. These are at least what's the word? A similar species. So I think that's more has to do with that than anything.
In the first trailer, I thought it was an owl. Like I didn't even clock it as a monkey.
I think for a split second I thought it was an owl too.
Yeah.
I thought the like monkey snout. I don't know what you call those. Was like a beak or something. I was like, wait, is that an owl?
We didn't see the golden crown quite yet. What is this over here? Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is the Fammy boards. Of course, this is where everyone gets their information. The Famicom boards, the Fammy boards, by a thread of posts made by Fammy boards poster Jazzy Future. Shout out Jazzy Future. And I'm just gonna read these as they are. Hey, So I noticed something with the final bit of the direct. Remember that layer with the sharp crocodile-like teeth rocks in the background, where DK is running at the camera while Pauline says, "Get him, DK!" There's actually a few frames where we can see Bonandium Gold bursting from off-screen. And DK starts looking down near the end of the clip, so he's probably looking down at Void Kong here, as if he got off his flying rock banana and possibly just ate it. But that's not all. Earlier, we see Void Kong in this very similarly colored area with the same floating rocks in the background. This is what it's referring to, the pink background, the cutscene we saw in the direct. But DK and Pauline then look up in shock at something glowing in this area. Something or someone much taller than Void Kong. Even though these shots are right after each other. We know Bonandium can cause people to transform, and there's a splash of Bonandium earlier. I think they just teased us on a big reveal for Void Co. right under our noses. Now, what kind of transformation would they reveal in the possibly crocodile layer? I sure wonder. Oh, also the shot of Pauline saying, "My special power," seems to be here as well. So while this probably isn't an endgame area, I doubt they show that in the direct, it is well after Lagoon Layer where Pauline finds out about her singing abilities. Like she just got explained why Void Co needed her in the first place, with some sort of mid-game plot revelation. What do you have to say about that, Mr. Lawyer?
Looking up, I don't think is super indicative of something, at least regarding what's it called? Void Kong. I think he might have just like floated. He might have just floated up because he's like on some banana shit. But also, I actually would think, yeah, it might be a transformation. It's not like Nintendo's never done that. The fact that we don't know for sure that it's a crocodile layer, we still haven't seen any crocodiles, is kind of casting some doubt, or at least really doesn't make this very indicative of the truth of like or like indicative of the hypothesis that this is somehow some sort of King K. Rool thing. And honestly, I'd say it's more likely. Well, I mean, I don't know if the person's trying to insinuate that this is King K. Rool in disguise. If they're not, then okay, that makes more sense, because I think it's probably like, oh, Void Kong has his own bonanza power, so he turns into a large giant animal thing.
Yeah,
and
especially if we're
have to fight him.
Taking into account assuming that Bowser's Fury was sort of a tech demo for this game, where both Mario and Bowser have the same transformation. And circling back to what I said earlier about like all the Nintendo characters having different clothing options, if we're talking in the context of Smash, I think everyone needs a new Final Smash, because now Donkey Kong has transformations, even Ganondorf has one, Peach, Mario, Bowser, they all have like giant transformations. Maybe Void Kong.
Honestly, I feel like I kind of don't want them to get those Final Smashes. You know, I feel like it'll be a little samey, but that's just me.
I think it'll still be the Final Smashes they have. Like Donkey Kong does the punches, except now he's Void Kong. Or not Void Kong, but Kong Bonanza. And Bowser still punches the screen, except instead of Giga Bowser, he's Fury Bowser. Even though Giga Bowser is
okay, yeah, I would support that, definitely. Yeah.
Even though Giga Bowser is like a Smash Bros. Character, but you can still have the boss fight.
Crocodile statue.
Interesting. It also looks a lot, the skeleton we saw earlier, the golden there's a lot of that is all right. Now I'm back on the K. Rool board. Maybe not K. Rool, but like we haven't seen any Kremlings in this, but there are a lot of crocodile shapes in this game.
Yeah.
But this is the last bit, the last gasp of information. This bit, the bit in between levels. This is what I wanted to talk about. The K. Rool argument's over. I was gonna play the K. Rool reveal trailer, be like, it's gotta be K. Rool, like that would be the big reveal. But we already said his name. That this bit, I don't know. There's that little loading bit there. I don't know if this is seamless. Maybe this is just like while the game is loading, you play this section, or maybe you have to, because it seems like when you're going down the bar isn't actually moving. Like, you're always going to be in the center. So maybe that's how they load in the background without you ever putting down the controller, which I love.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, the purpose of the K. Rool argument, of analyzing this trailer, of going over everything here, is this is the last bit of additional information we are likely going to get about Donkey Kong Bonanza before its release on, I think, July 17th? Let me check again.
I think that's it.
Yeah, July 17th, which is only, if I'm doing the math here, not counting this one, 1, 2, 3 more Switch 2 Ultra episodes And we're going to figure out what we got to do one of the weeks. Maybe we'll see. This is the last bit. So overall, we can discuss our thoughts on Donkey Kong Bonanza, the potential of K. Rool. Now we know Diddy and Dixie. We know the transformations. Before watching this direct, were you sold on this game already, or were you on the fence?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna get it. If not just because I do this show,
right?
No, man, that is absolutely a game I get. I love 3D platformers. I love the Nintendo 3D platformers. I love Mario. Yeah, I was absolutely gonna get this game.
Yeah, I was gonna get it regardless, but it was more of like an excitement standpoint. Like, do I? For whatever reason, I didn't feel that stoked on it. I think just because I was more prepared to get the Switch 2 and play Mario Kart and do all of that. So someone in the Twitch chat is also saying, weren't there tweets where someone said that this game is being made by a new team of people that also worked on Odyssey and the Kremlings are back? Well, that's all speculative because nobody knows. That's why we were talking about the voice actress for Pauline as well. We don't know the director of this game. We don't know the team working on it. We can make assumptions because it is very emblematic. And
it looks very Odyssey-esque.
Yeah. And I don't think it would be a new team. I think it would just be like whatever they call it, Nintendo Group 5, that makes the 3D Mario games. Because there are different teams, I forget which channel made a video on this, but editor, if you know, like put it up on screen, that makes really informative videos about the different divisions of Nintendo. And there's one team that makes like the Splatoon and Animal Crossing games. So it's like, oh, if we're getting a Splatoon, we're probably not getting an Animal Crossing. And the Mario Kart team worked on Mario Kart DLC and ARMS. So, you know, we just got Mario Kart, so we probably won't get ARMS 2. I was going to say for a while, but we're probably not going to get ARMS 2 ever, if I'm being conservative about it.
Yeah, I don't think it did well enough.
That I think the 3D Mario team, in the background this entire time, because there's also been rumblings about the Donkey Kong 3D platformer that's been in development or maybe been finished for a long while now that they held off to release it for the Switch 2. That the 3D Mario team has been working on Donkey Kong Bonanza in the background and then did Bowser's Fury as a little testing ground for this while trying to port 3D World and just make it run a little faster. That I don't think this is a new team. I do think it's people who worked on Odyssey. And I think beyond the images, the screenshots, the footage that we've seen in the trailers, in the direct, in the treehouse, and on the hands-on events, I think that is all we will get about Donkey Kong Bonanza before the game comes out. But now we know why there's a new Diddy design they showed off on the Nintendo Today app. Now we've officially seen Smalline after she was leaked on the Nintendo of Korea website. We know, I don't think there's any hanging chads when it comes to Donkey Kong Bonanza, or hanging Kongs rather. I just really want to play it. I think the Direct did its job, that I am excited for it again.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked, you know? I think it's going to be really fun. I think I'm not like as excited as I would be if it was a 3D Mario, just because this is definitely going to be a new kind of game. I've played there's a lot of new things in this game that I've never experienced before. So there is a part of me that isn't totally convinced that I'm going to love it. So it's not like a game that I know I'm just going to be immediately addicted to, but there's a good chance I'll be addicted to it, to be honest.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, whenever there's a Switch 2 game, normally I just like, oh, on Thursday I play it, and then the way I do stream schedules is that every subsequent week I continue to play it. Like Donkey Kong Bonanza will be Thursday, and then on Thursday. Because what I've been doing ever since the Nintendo Kick the Bucket Countdown ended, just using Thursday as a rotating Switch 2 day, where I just play the Switch 2, and then on the day I just choose whatever I want to play. That I think Bonanza is going to break that for a little bit, where when Bonanza comes out, I'll probably at least for like a good week or two just be playing it every day like I was with Mario Kart World. Because beyond that, there aren't a lot of major... and I want to get the most out of it. Obviously, you have your Drag X Drive and your Kirby Starcross Lovers or whatever it's called. And also, Mario Party Jamboree Plus comes out the week after Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like the Switch 2 edition.
Yeah.
And I think that they said that online will be free through like March 2026. So,
oh, yeah.
Okay, Twitch chat says they've spent years interviewing devs and seem pretty confident in the tweets. So I think it's more than just speculation. Oh, but it's still the team that worked on Odyssey is what you're saying. I would assume that already. Like, I think that's already a shut. I mean, we don't know that for a fact. Maybe we have additional information now. But there's nothing that could... like sway me more in the opposite direction. I'm already basically 98% like, oh yeah, this is the Odyssey team. I have no doubt in my mind that like someone else worked on this. I think
it would be so funny if it turns out it's a different team.
Yeah, it was actually Ubisoft's. because they made the Mario Rabbids games. They had Grant Kirkhope working on the soundtrack again. I think the only thing, I mean, there's obviously going to be secrets within the game, like once you're actually playing the game, all the different collectibles. But it seems like the main thing they're holding out on us is the soundtrack. I hope at the very least that there's an original soundtrack for this game and not just different versions or re-recordings of old Donkey Kong music. Although Donkey Kong music is really good, I'd like to see something new from it. But beyond that, I think I am ready for Donkey Kong Bonanza, even though we have multiple weeks until that happens. We do have a little bit of a drought. Hold on, let me look up when that Pokemon Direct is. Because I know it's in July, but I don't know the date. So I want to see if it's before or after any of these games. July 22nd. So that's 2 days before. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's like 4 days after Bonanza, but like 2 days before Jamboree. So July is going to be very big. We just have to get to that point. I don't think we're going to get any additional information in the coming weeks on anything, really. So we're really going to have to figure out what we're going to talk about.
We'll find something.
Twitchet says apparently it's a new team that spun off from Odyssey team with some younger devs. That would make sense. That's something I wanted to bring up earlier, that I hold a lot of respect and reverence for these old developers, but whenever people say like, oh, this is a Sakurai game or a Miyamoto game or whatever, especially when it comes to Pokemon, I'd rather see the games being developed by new developers who are like nostalgic for those older games. And I think the reason this game takes after Odyssey and Breath of the Wild is, one, it was people who worked on Odyssey. Two, maybe people who worked on Breath of the Wild or they saw Breath of the Wild. And three, based on older Donkey Kong games like Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong 64, is that these are developers that likely grew up with those games. And this game, I think, is a true love letter to Donkey Kong. I think they're going to tie into Mario somehow. Maybe that's the big reveal at the end, as everyone assumes it's going to transform into King K. Rool. But what if the final boss fight is you have to stop Mario from kidnapping Pauline? What if it's a Braid situation?
I kind of imagine that. Like, oh, what if that's the like you the game ends with you on top of 75 meters or whatever. Whoa. And you have to like throw like those like launch pads, those little spring pads at Mario.
What if it's Spike Foreman from Wrecking Crew and also the Super Mario Bros. Movie? Something to think about. I think we've exhausted everything we had to say about the week, about Drag X Drive, about personal anything, any opinions we often have, and also Donkey Kong Bonanza. I don't think I'm going to see a movie this weekend because I'm going to pull like an all-nighter weekend so I can finish this video. I think I'm going to release it later. Not later, but like instead of right at the beginning of July, maybe have it off a little bit. I think I'll announce it by the end of the month maybe, but I really don't know if I'll have anything to talk about next week. So we shall see where we go. But at least for today, do you have any closing remarks, anything to plug that you haven't already done by being on the show?
Really, I think I'm good.
Still working on that same project?
Yeah, definitely.
Every week we'll have a different Pocket Tail update. And we'll see like, oh, hey, how's it going?
Pocket Tail.
Mm-hmm. What? More or less the same. And I'm keeping everything close to the chest, but those are the closing remarks. I'm excited for DK Bonanza. I have been your co-parent, BH Ultra.
And I have been your co-parent, Switchy.
And now I'm going to hang up. Thank you for joining me today.
Bye.
Later. Oh, I thought he already hung up because he went bye and it cut out. All right. Yeah, you guys ever hear this song? Let's run it back. It's actually quiet at first.
Okay.
Oh.
Here we go. Performance for you. If you know the words, you can join in too. Put your hands together. when she needs to be. She can go through the air and climb up trees. If you choose her, you'll not choose wrong. With a skip and a hop, she's one cool car. He has no style, he has no grace. This car has a funny face.